And we are live. Welcome in, everybody. Last game of the season, not just for both the Kraken and Jets, but last regular season game in the NHL. Playoffs starting here in a little bit for, half the league, which doesn't include either one of these teams, unfortunately, for at least Kraken fans. If you're a Jets fan as well, obviously, probably expecting playoffs if you're a Jets fan, definitely hoping for playoffs if you're a Kraken fan. It hasn't gone that way for either team, certainly not for the Kraken, but we still got this one last game left to play thanks to the delayed, what was it? It was like a blizzard in Winnipeg that delayed this game from a couple weeks, or a week ago, I think it was. Anyway, here we are on Sunday. This one last game of the season. Starting here in about 15 minutes. Good middle of the day Sunday game, so got that going. Obviously, Kraken fans. I mean, it's a bit of a weird game if you're a Kraken fan, because you are hoping for a win in any individual game, but the only difference this game can make, actually I don't know if it makes a difference for the Jets or not, but the biggest difference this game can make for either team is that if the Kraken win or lose in overtime, then they'll end up dropping from the third to fourth spot in the lottery rankings, which would basically, it's a drop of 2% as far as winning the lottery and getting that first overall pick. A drop from 11.5% to 9.5%. So not a huge drop, but it's still not nothing. And I don't know, like, obviously we're still, you're still probably cheering for the Kraken, but it kind of feels like something where if they lose, then kind of wouldn't hurt to lose. So, it's kind of weird in that way, where not necessarily sad to see that. Obviously, like, it'd be fun to see the Kraken win their last game and what would end up being the last two games of the season. But yeah, not necessarily the worst thing if the Kraken lose this game and maintain that third spot in the lotto rankings and get that 11.5% chance at Shane Wright. So, prediction on the final score. I can't imagine this is a particularly high scoring game. Again, this is the last game of the season for either one of these teams. It wasn't originally on the schedule, so these are all guys who were probably originally planning to have been off for the last couple of days and starting their off seasons. So I can't imagine there's a ton of energy, especially on the Kraken side. We kind of saw that with the Sharks in that last home game for the Kraken. There just really was not a lot of energy there for them. Obviously, that was partly because they were also on a back-to-back. For the Jets, all the Jets have the Kraken don't have anything to play for other than pride, I guess. The Jets, it is their last home game, so they have the fans to play for, I guess. Kind of that, like, you want to try a little bit just to give that good one last goodbye to the fans, give them a good last show, like the Kraken did for Seattle on Friday. So, yeah, probably not a high energy game on either side. Maybe a little bit more for the Jets, but that probably means a pretty low scoring game. So I would guess 3-2, 2-1, something like that, and probably Jets winning. So let's say like 3-2 Jets win. Low energy can also mean, not great defense. So we'll go 3-2 Jets is probably what I think the final score. For the Kraken, probably the worst possible scenario is for the Kraken to lose in overtime, because then you still lose and then you also lose that pick. You lose that third spot in the draft order. So yeah, probably we want the game to end in regulation. Or if the Kraken are going to win, they can win in overtime, but we don't want a loss in overtime or shootout. That's probably the biggest thing we don't want. Felt like the last few games watching for the players, plus good energy from the fans. End of the season with the W's. Yeah, it's been a good end of the season for the Kraken. Really a good last couple of months. Like, ever since the trade deadline, the teams have been playing pretty well. Obviously, there's been some things you'd like to have back. The power play's still been terrible. Um, they've had in the last couple of weeks have had a couple of very forgettable, or maybe not forgettable, second periods you definitely want to learn from. Second periods that did not go well at all. Obviously, the 5 goals they allow in the second period in Minnesota after taking a 2-0 lead in the first. The 3 goals they allow in Dallas the very next game to blow a 2-0 lead again that they had in the first. And then again up 2-0 against. They were up 2-0 early on someone else, and they ended up blowing. So a few blown leads, a few bad second periods that you'd want back, but definitely a better end of the season than start of it. So yeah, well, not a bad end to the season. If the Kraken play next year at least somewhat like they played here at the end of the season, then that'd be good. They definitely have a much better season. I think they'll have a hard time having a worse season than last year, or they'll have a hard time having a worse season than this year. What will be last year next season? Already thinking about next season. Um, Good morning, Riley. Yep, it's a morning here on the West Coast, Sunday morning. So good matinee game to end the season. Only game on the schedule today. Last regular season game in the NHL. Most teams ending their season on Friday. This being a makeup game, that's the reason it's here on Sunday all by itself. And then playoffs start in a couple of days here. I think that first playoff game is on the 3rd, if I remember right. So I'll have Monday off, and then Tuesday starts the playoffs. So I mean, if you guys have done the like playoff brackets, maybe who you have. Personally, I've got Colorado winning the cup. Definitely hoping Colorado wins the cup. So we'll see. Morning from Texas. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. Let's see, what do we got here? Let's see. The other thing I'm going to try to keep, we'll keep some tabs on is the Mariners game going on, trying to not be swept by the Marlins of all teams. Who actually, like, the Marlins have gotten off to a surprisingly good start to the season, and it's still this like very very early in the MLB season, but yeah, the Mariners have not had a good road trip after a really really good homestand, so bit of a mixed bag for the Mariners so far. Not great on the road in general, and quite good at home. Hopefully, we can get more of that good on the road and keep it going well at home as well. All right. What else have we got here? Hope Carolina or Tampa, Colorado. But if Dallas or Florida win, I'll be madder than a wet hen. uh, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely pulling for Colorado. Carolina or Tampa, like Tampa, I'm kind of like I don't know, 3 in a row for Tampa would kind of. I wouldn't say it would suck, but I'm like it was fun. I mean, I actually ended up winning money off of Tampa the first time. It was I shouldn't say it. Well, yeah, Tampa winning the first time I was happy about. Tampa winning the second time it was like I mean they are the best team, so it makes sense. 3 times in a row, I don't like unless it's the Kraken. I don't really want any team winning 3 times in a row. Other than me, I would maybe be okay with Colorado winning 3 times in a row as long as they didn't have to go through the Kraken to make it happen. Um, but yeah, other than Seattle, I don't know that there's any team I'd want winning 3 times in a row. But Tampa could definitely do it. I actually do have Tampa beating the Leafs in the first round, and I put them beating the Leafs in the first round. I think by 7 games just for the meme of it. Sorry, Leafs fans, but second here. Border. All right, yeah, we got about 4 minutes here till the game time comes around, but probably another 5 minutes or so after that for opening ceremonies and all that stuff, or opening like national anthems, two national anthems. So it takes a couple extra minutes. So you got both the Canadian and U.S. national anthems. Let's see here. Morning from Texas. See where I said that. Will he sign Blackwell in free agency? He was my favorite player. I kind of doubt it. I mean, if they don't, I think there's going to be bigger targets available that the Kraken will definitely be going for first. And if they don't get any of those, and if Blackwell kind of slides to like the second or third day of free agency, I don't think that they would be opposed to bringing him back because he did play well and he really worked well with Gord, especially on the penalty kill, but even on that line. So I don't think they'd be opposed to bringing Blackwell back. I just don't think he's really the priority. So it's kind of if they can fit him in and if they don't necessarily get all of their first options and Blackwell's still available, then maybe they go for him. But I don't see him as being one that they really go hard after getting back. And it's also kind of hard to say as to whether or not he, maybe asked to leave with how the season was going. And, the thing about free agency is unlike a trade, it's up to both the player and team if they want to, join up again. So, I mean, I never heard or saw anything from Blackwell that would suggest he didn't like playing in Seattle, other than obviously nobody likes losing as much as Seattle was up until that point. So, if Blackwell wants to come back and he's still available, like in the last, a few days into free agency, then maybe he does come if the Kraken miss on a couple of their primary targets. Yeah, it's possible, but again, probably not likely. On the plus side, I think it's probably a plus that Blackwell has played with the team before and showed some good chemistry with especially Gord, who's definitely a key piece of the core of this team going forward. So again, it wouldn't be the worst thing to have Blackwell back, and because of that, already having some of that chemistry built up, I think it would be something they would certainly consider. Let's see. I have no problem doing Tampa. I have no problem with Tampa three-peating, but I have to respect Joe Thornton or Joe Pavelski. You have no respect for Joe Thornton or Joe Pavelski. Fair enough, I guess. I mean, I don't really care for Dallas that much either, just because Texas teams. No offense to Hawk here, but Texas teams tend to not be my favorite. For obvious reasons in the NFL, because nobody likes the Cowboys other than Cowboys fans. And then baseball, both of the Texas teams are Mariners rivals. So the only thing I really do like about the Stars is that they wear green. So I like the Stars colors a lot. I don't really care about the Stars other than that too much. I don't really think they have it in them to make a deep run. They probably won't make it past the first round. Possible though. I mean, we saw them go on a kind of surprising run to the finals 2 years ago to play Tampa. Not quite as surprising as the Habs the following year, last year, but still a pretty surprising run there by the Stars to get to that finals in the bubble. But yeah, definitely pulling for Colorado. I think I had Colorado and Carolina as my final, with Colorado winning in my bracket there. Who's in the nets for the Jets? I don't. Let's see if they've announced that yet. I haven't seen it. I would I would guess Hellebuck, honestly, just because it is the last home game, but I don't know for sure. My guess is Hellebuck. Yeah, just because it's the last home game. See, like, you know, you probably would sit some of your guys. I don't know if Hellebuck's battling an injury or something, or wants to start getting some rehab going in this off season. Then even if it hasn't kept him out of games normally, or wouldn't keep him out of games normally, if he has something bothering him, then maybe he wouldn't start. Otherwise, I think he probably, I guess the Kraken started Drieger instead of Grubauer for the last home game, but Grubauer did play the game before that, so I guess it would be Hellebuck for the Jets, but I don't know quite yet. For the Kraken, I would guess Grubauer. Again, I don't. They had it on for a little bit earlier, but I forgot who they had. The one thing for the Kraken we have already seen is Jordan Eberle is not playing in this game, so he's starting his off season. So then that will move. Rask is moving up to that Beniers line with Donato and Beniers. So we'll get to see Victor Rask with Beniers and Donato. It'll be certainly an interesting one. Matthew, probably Connor Hellebuck. Yeah, probably Hellebuck. I would laugh if Vegas trades Marchessault to Seattle because I would not expect. I would not expect Marchessault to get traded to Seattle. Vegas is gonna have to figure something out because they're well over the cap. So they're gonna have to move one or two guys here in the offseason and figure some ways out to get under the cap there going into next year. But I would imagine it's probably Dodonov, considering they tried to already trade him once at the trade deadline. So I'd imagine probably Dodonov is the one that ends up getting traded, or at least one of the ones. Marchessault, I think, has been a part of that core for long enough that they keep him around. But again, it's Vegas. You never really know. Vegas is loyal to no one for no reason. So we obviously saw that with Fleury last year, and that came back to bite them. So you never know with Vegas. They could do pretty much anything. And if Marchessault's on the trading block, then yeah, I don't see a reason why the Kraken wouldn't at least sniff around and see if they can get involved there. What about Bergeron? Well, I don't like the Bruins, so I mean Bergeron's a good player. I don't really know anything about him off the ice, and he's not really that dirty, so other than being a Bruin, but I mean he's a good player, so I just don't like the Bruins, so I'm never gonna cheer for him. The Cowboys have a nice helmet, I guess. I mean it's silver. I don't know. The Cowboys do. I don't. There's not a lot I like about the Cowboys, to be honest. It's just kind of boring branding. I mean, it's the star on the helmet is iconic, I guess, just because it's simple and it is a franchise that's had success in the past and is a popular franchise. So obviously, like not changing your brand and having history of, they did win some championships a long time ago. It's been a long time since they did anything in the playoffs, which I am perfectly fine with continuing. No problem. I hate Texas teams. Okay, good. I wasn't sure. I was like, you never know. But I kind of have a soft spot for the Texas Rangers in baseball. Oof. We're not going to agree there, Riley. I'm sorry to say. Much like we don't agree with Vegas, the Rangers are one of my least favorite teams in baseball. They're my least favorite team in the Mariners division for whatever. I mean, they're never good, or I shouldn't say never. They went to the back-to-back World Series. They had that run, which is really what made me kind of hate them. But actually, no, what really made me hate them was when they took A-Rod from the Mariners, which really was more on A-Rod than it was the Rangers. Like, the Rangers put out a bunch of money and A-Rod took it. Like they did everything right from their perspective, but as a Mariners fan, it was still, that was the start of my hate for the Rangers because it was more attached to A-Rod, and yeah, I've never liked the Rangers. I was so happy to watch them lose both of those World Series that they went to. I hope Vegas keeps Marchessault, but because he's your favorite player. Yeah, I mean he's him. Well, Stone came over later, but Marchessault, I'd say, especially now with Fleury gone, Marchessault would seem like a pretty good pick to be a favorite player if you're a Vegas fan, because he has been around since the beginning. And, yeah, he's been one of their star players since the beginning as well. So, with Fleury gone, I imagine he's probably one of the easier picks for a fan favorite, along with Stone, who hasn't been around since the beginning, but, being the captain and all. All right. One more commercial break and then the game gets started. The last game of the season. Kraken sign Bergeron in free agency. Oh, that's what you're talking about. I I mean if he's available, yeah, obviously you go after him. I kind of think he stays in Boston. It would be really weird. Like Bergeron's one of those players. It would be really, really weird to see in a different jersey. Um, kind of like I mean, kind of like Gio not being in a Flames jersey. Bergeron hasn't been there quite as long as Gio was in Calgary, but I mean, how long has he been in Boston? It's been quite a while. Let's see here. Oh, actually, he's been in there longer than he's been 18 years in Boston, so he's been there longer than Gio was in Calgary. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to picture Bergeron not in a Bruins jersey. He kind of feels like the type of guy that will just retire a Bruin. And since there's not like an expansion draft where he can just get picked, because it's up to him ultimately where he wants to sign, and if he wants to sign, I mean, he could just decide to retire. I don't really think he's ready to retire, but he could. How old is he? He's 36. So yeah, he's probably still got a couple more years, but I bet he stays. The I bet he stays. The other Forsberg, I think, probably stays as well in Nashville. The one that I think is definitely on the move, or there's two that are on the move, but the one UFA that the big name UFA that's on the move would be Johnny Gaudreau. Um, he's definitely on the move out of Calgary. I'd say more likely than not. I shouldn't say definitely, but more likely than not, Gaudreau's done it in Calgary whenever their playoff run ends. So that's one that I could see the Kraken going after. I've said it before, and I still think it's true. Gaudreau probably gets overpaid wherever he goes. Who knows if it continues, but this season was a huge jump in scoring from previous years. I don't know how much of that is just because we're coming off of two not complete seasons, but it was, even from just a goals per game standpoint, it was a huge jump in scoring across the NHL. So we saw, I think there was something like 5,500 point players this year, which is massively higher than normal. At least over the last few decades, really. So yeah, there's going to be some guys there that got 100 points this season that'll probably get overpaid in free agency. Um, Good year for them, being in a contract year and having career seasons like that scoring wise. And Gaudreau will probably get overpaid by 1 to 3 million a year. But for the Kraken, they've got a ton of space. So even if they do overpay Gaudreau by like 2 or 3 million a year, as long as it isn't like an 8-year deal or a 7-year deal or something like that, I wouldn't hate it. They really don't have any terrible contracts. So, Alexiak is, if he plays like he played the start of the season, then his contract's perfectly worth it. If he plays like he's played in the last couple of months, then that's probably a little bit of an overpayment. Um, Kind of the flip for Wemberg. Wemberg at 4 million a year. That's kind of flipped. Like he had a really not. He was probably my least favorite Kraken just from what he was giving the team for the first half of the season, and then he's really bounced back well here in the last little bit. So if he plays the way he's played over these last couple of months, then he's well worth his contract. Larson again has had ups and downs throughout the season, not quite as defined as a beginning and end. And then, yeah, I guess the one Kraken contract that at this point is not going well or not looking great is the Grubauer contract in goal. But again, goalies are weird. Grubauer didn't have a good season this year, but he could come back with a great season next year. You never know. We saw that. We saw that with Markstrom in Calgary this year, that he didn't have. I mean, it wasn't as bad as Grubauer's season this year, but not a great first season in Calgary. after coming over from the Canucks, and then bounced back this year with a great season. So we still got both national anthems here. So probably still starting in another probably still just under 10 minutes from game time. Uh, who should Seattle sign in free agency? We play against Appleton today as well. Yeah, Appleton back with the Jets. So Kraken play against Appleton in their first or last game of the season. I still miss Appleton, but I think he wanted to go back to when things just didn't really work out for Appleton in Seattle, unfortunately. He was one that I thought really could have a breakout season here, and it just never really worked out. He was pretty good defensively for the Kraken and was one of their best players along the boards, winning puck battles, but yeah, it just didn't really seem like the fit was good for Appleton, unfortunately. So going back to Winnipeg is probably the best thing for him, even though he had kind of an up and down time in Winnipeg as well. And Ron Francis said that 4 of the 5 guys they traded at the trade deadline went to their first choice destination, and I would imagine Appleton was probably one of those. I guess he liked being in Winnipeg enough that he was happy to go back. As far as who the Kraken should sign in free agency, I mean, again, I think you gotta get one of the marquee names. So Goudreau would be one that I would be perfectly happy to see them get, even if it is probably an overpayment a little bit. If Forsberg or Bergeron are available, sure, go for it, as long as you can get them to kind of I mean, both of them are coming towards the end of their careers. So as long as you can get them on a decent deal and not, the amount per year, the AAV really can be whatever, but as long as the term isn't super long on either one of them, then if you can get them, great. Fiala would be one that he's probably gets traded by Minnesota before free agency if they don't find a way to sign him, which with them coming up on a lot of dead cap from the Suter and Parise buyouts, I don't know how they fit Fiala into it, honestly. That's gonna be quite the puzzle for them to get Fiala into the cap for next season, because I think the cap's only going up like 1 million next year, and Fiala's gonna probably get he can probably get at least 8 million a year with a pretty good term if he wants it. Maybe 7 million, 8 million. I should say he should get at least 7, but honestly, he should get at least 8. I think somewhere around 8, 7 or 8. Somewhere in there, I think Fiala gets per year, which I don't see how Minnesota can fit that into their cap. Yeah, I mean they would have to, because they have Fleury. They have Fleury's contract that'll come off because he's a free agent, and then they have Fiala's 5 million that's coming off, but that's about 8 million there. So if they don't sign anybody else, don't go after any free agents themselves, and don't add anything else to the team, like if they make no moves whatsoever other than re-signing Fiala, then they can probably get him in. But yeah, it's going to be tricky for them to get Fiala in unless he just takes a super team-friendly deal, which means he's probably on the move, and with him being an RFA, he probably gets traded. So Fiala would be one I'd like to see the Kraken at least go in for if he is on the trade block before free agency. And there we go. Starting in. Puck dropped. Beniers' line is out there to start the game. Again, no Eberle in this final game of the season for the Kraken. So Victor Rask up on that line with Donato and Beniers. Ooh, Beniers into the zone. Got it back to Donato. Round back. Rask trying to get to it. Donato putting it back in. That was kind of a weird... Alright, they'll go off for a change. Game's blacked out in the UK, so I'll check in to see the score. Fair enough. How's it blacked out in the UK? That seems weird. How do they have UK blackouts? That makes no sense. Chance for the Kraken. Oh, Pouliot got a shot. Kraken going with that Portland Winterhawks D pair of Pouliot and Chalowski again. One of my Ducks likes hockey. Good taste. Let's see. Today Flyers fans equal Kraken fans. Yeah, I know. Yeah, if the Kraken, this is kind of a weird game for the Kraken. Because obviously, like, you always want to cheer for your team, but it's better for the Kraken to lose this one specifically. Because if the Kraken, again, I mentioned this at the beginning, but now we got some more people in here. For the Kraken, basically the only thing on the line in this game is if they win it or lose in overtime. So if they get any points, 1 or 2 points, then they will jump Philly in the standings, which means they'll fall from the 3rd to 4th spot in the draft lottery odds, which is a difference of 2%. So it's not a massive difference. The 3rd spot has a 11.5% chance at the first pick, and the 4th spot has a 9.5 chance at the first pick. So not a huge difference, but still, you want every 2% you can get. And I'm sure Philly fans feel the same way, but it feels like as a Kraken fan, like if they do drop from the 3rd to the 4th spot, then it just seems like Philly's almost guaranteed to get that first pick. Like somehow the Kraken, with like everything that's gone wrong in and out of their control over the course of this season, that I guess Philly's kind of had a nightmare of a season as well. So it does have a bit of a feeling of like if they manage to screw this up and give up that 3rd spot to Philly, that 3rd spot will end up getting the first pick. Oh, Gordo almost got a shot. Let's see, what do we got here? Premier Sports playing the game, but it's like 15 quid. Oh. That's annoying. Yeah. I don't know much about it. I don't know if you guys have I guess Fubo's pretty expensive, so that's what I finally caved and got Fubo because it allows me to watch the Mariners as well. So it's definitely not cheap. But and Comrie's in net for the Jets, by the way. Some people asking earlier. It is Comrie, not Hellebuck. So giving Hellebuck the early start to the offseason, which makes sense. The only reason I thought it might be Hellebuck is just because it's that last home game for the fans. Oh! Oh, Rask had an open net and he just put it wide off the backhand. And the Jets score. Going back the other way. Man, what a series. Series of events. Series of unfortunate events for the Kraken there. Or fortunate if you're hoping they get that pick. I mean, Beniers did everything right there. So it ends up being a 2-on-1 with Beniers being the one. So where the defensemen are, Yeah, I mean, Beniers, he tried to defend it, and I guess he didn't really do... He could have done a little bit better job of taking away the pass, but... Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he didn't play that the way he was kind of supposed to, but... Either way, it's... When you're 1 on a 2-on-1 as a forward, that kind of leaves the question of where the defensemen are. But yeah, an unfortunate series of events there. Rask misses an open shot. He had pretty much an empty net to shoot at. He had to get a quick backhand shot off, so it's not like definitely not the easiest shot in the world, but NHL players should be able to make that, especially on an empty net, even from an angle. So Rask barely misses what's basically an empty net, and then right back the other way, it's a 2-on-1, and they score. So we'll get that score updated here. So that was like 4 minutes into the game they scored, maybe a little bit less than 4 minutes in. Mason Appleton out there for the Jets right now. Well, if you're cheering for draft lotto odds, good start for the Kraken, being down 1. It's Drieger in net, by the way, not Grubauer for the Kraken. So Grubauer getting his offseason started as well. And then Decord, who came up for 1 game for the Kraken, didn't have a great game against LA, although nobody for the Kraken really. Oh, nice play by Donskoy to get that shot off. Saved by Comrie. Decord came up for the 1 game. Really not a very good game for him. Again, not a good game for anybody on the Kraken past the first period. But he goes back to the Checkers, where he's been fantastic in the AHL, and the Checkers had that first round bye in their playoffs, but they'll get things started in the AHL playoffs here. Hope that Sprong stays. Yeah, me too. He's definitely cooled off a bit since his really good start for the Kraken. But he's a good kind of depth forward guy. Well, that took a weird bounce and went sliding in front of the empty net because Drieger tried to go behind it. Fortunately, no one was there to put it in, but yeah, it would be nice to see Sprong stay. I mean, he's still 25, maybe 26. So, and he's got a really good shot. Definitely could. It's kind of weird to me that he hasn't got. I guess he's gotten some looks on the power play, but the Kraken just need more guys that are willing to take shots on the power play and stop passing it. Which maybe the passing is a thing that they're being coached on, but they need to do more shooting and less passing on the power play. And Sprong is definitely he's got that shot that definitely pretty good. So really overall a pretty good start to this game for the Kraken. They've had the majority of the offensive zone time, and most of the pressure, even shots, are favoring the Kraken 7-4 right now. They just gave up that one odd man chance, and Winnipeg scored. So again, not the end of the world if you're a Kraken fan, because it does get the Kraken that much closer to the 3rd best odds at Shane Wright rather than the 4th. Think the Kraken make a splash in free agency? I think they certainly try to. Obviously, the thing about free agency is it's up to the players as much as the teams. Like, as long as there's more than one team that's interested, then it's up to the player where they want to go. The thing the Kraken have going for them is that they do have a lot of cap space, so they can. Obviously you don't want to go too crazy with the contracts you offer, but they can afford to, like, if there's a 1 or 2 guys that they really, really want, they can afford to put in that extra couple million to outbid another team. So they've got the money on their side, then it's just, they can do the rest to lure players to Seattle. I think they'll definitely try to get players. Ron Francis has already said that he's going to do everything he can to make the team competitive next season. Which, the expansion draft, they definitely were trying to get going at that with trying to build towards the future. And I don't really think Ron Francis did all that bad of a job of picking in the expansion draft. Obviously, like, there's a few picks that you can definitely point to say he did wrong, but there's also plenty of picks that went right. So I don't think that the job as far as picking in the expansion draft wasn't great. The only I do think they probably could have done better at letting the market come to them rather than setting the market and then not being flexible on it as far as getting some trades out of teams during the expansion draft. So that's probably the one thing I would say was mismanaged there. But they ended up, picking players that they traded in free agency and got, or not free agency, at the trade deadline, and got a lot of picks back at the trade deadline. So that, I mean, they've got either tied for the most or the most picks here in the next 2 years. So 4 picks in the second round of this year's draft if they don't trade any of them. Yeah, so we'll see. I think they'll definitely go for it. The biggest question about free agency is who's going to be available still, because yeah, there's guys like Bergeron that we talked about, and Philip Forsberg that seem like they probably will have. Seems like they'll probably end up back where they are. Again, both Forsberg and Bergeron, just kind of hard to picture them not in Boston and Nashville, respectively. So, Jets in the Appleton line pressuring again. Oh, Drieger making some saves. Drieger's had to make some pretty nice saves here at the early going. Obviously didn't come up with the one on the 2-on-1 breakaway, but these have not been necessarily easy saves that he's been having to make here. Who do you think will be gone next season from the Kraken? As far as the guys that are still there, I'd be pretty surprised if Riley. I'd be pretty surprised if Riley Sheahan is back. He's a free agent, and yeah, I just don't see him really sticking around. Victor Rask, don't think he's back. Yeah, I mean he's been fine for the Kraken since coming back since coming over in free agency, but well, I do think the Kraken picked him up for the sake of, like, what the heck, let's give it a go, see what happens. And it didn't hurt the Kraken at all to do that. So I don't think he's really shown enough for the Kraken to decide to, keep him around. I think Rask kind of fills that role that we were talking about with Blackwell earlier, where if he's still available a few days into free agency and a couple of those big names have not gone to Seattle, have already gone somewhere and not to Seattle, then maybe they end up going for Rask just to keep that. He's had some familiarity with the team, but yeah, Sheahan's probably gone. Rask is probably gone. Pouliot is probably gone. Again, he hasn't been really around much, but all 3 of those guys are UFAs here. So the 3 UFAs for the Kraken, I think, are all probably not coming back. Which then opens up spots for a potential top draft pick to step into, a couple of free agent pickups to step into. Kraken have quite a few RFAs. Let's see, who do they have here? RFAs, they've got Coland is an RFA. He's probably back. Donato's an RFA. I would imagine he's probably back. Especially with the familiarity and working with... They've kept him and Beniers together this entire time since all 10 of Beniers' games those two have stayed together. So I would imagine that Donato's probably back, especially considering he had a career season for the Kraken. Of course, the question for Donato is how much does he want? I can't imagine Donato getting more than somewhere between 1 and 2 million a year. Which right now where's he at right now? So the Kraken was a 1-year deal with the Kraken for $750. they picked him up at the minimum. So he'll definitely make more than that. He had a pretty good season. I want to say 16 goals at this point on the year. Career season in goals and points, and I think assists. I'm not actually sure if he made a career season in assists, but Beniers line out there. Let's see if Beniers tipped it out, and it looks like they'll go off for a change. Let's see, other free agencies. Geeky will be back. Already talked about Daniel Sprong is also a UFA, or sorry, an RFA. Sprong, I kind of feel like Sprong's one that will be. I can't see them paying him much more than $1 million a year, and probably not on a long-term deal. So if he comes back at around $1 million a year, then I think Sprong comes back. But if someone's willing to offer him like two, more in the ballpark of 2, I was gonna say 3, but I really can't see him getting 3. Then maybe, but Carson Kuhlman's another RFA. I do hope they keep Kuhlman around. I'd say of the RFAs, Kuhlman. Well, okay, so Lind and Geeky, I can't see them letting either one of those guys walk. And then Donato and Kuhlman are the two that I'd really like to see them hang on to. Sprong maybe, but then on the defensive end, there's Hayden Fleury's an RFA and Dennis Chalowski's an RFA. Hayden really had a pretty up and down season. He had a good start to the year, but then Haxtell like sat him for a couple of games while he was honestly. I felt like he was. I would say that he was about as hot as a third pair defenseman can be, and playing really well. And then he got sat for a couple of games, and it just seemed like that shot his confidence, and he was really not the same until like January, where he started to play well again, and then eventually had some injury issues. So a really kind of up and down frustrating season for Hayden Fleury. Definitely not helped out by the fact that Borgen, when he first started getting chances, was playing well for the Kraken, and so it kind of came down to Borgen or Fleury, especially since the Kraken kept playing Lazan before trading him, obviously. Chipped in. That'll be some icing. So, Tommy Gunn says, "Let's go Jets." You know what? If the Jets win for Kraken, it's not for the Kraken. It's slightly better long term for the Kraken if the Jets win, just because they get 2% better chance at Shane Wright. So, as long as the Jets win in regulation, if it goes to overtime, I'm cheering for the Kraken all out. Because as soon as it gets to overtime, the Kraken have lost that third spot in the draft lotto, either way. But it's kind of a win-win situation as far like at the point where we're at. It's kind of a win-win this game for the Kraken. Either they win or they keep the third spot in the lotto odds. Honestly, probably best if we lose this game. Assuming you're talking about the Kraken, then yeah. Jets, I don't really know what the Jets situation is, but they were much closer to the playoffs, so that's more like a 13, 14 type of actually probably more like 14th. I would imagine they're maybe 13 or 14, probably 13, I think, which is not very good odds at the lotto. Let's see, what is that? I have the thing pulled up here. So the Jets have like a 2% chance at the first overall pick. I don't think that there's anything the Jets can do that would change that in this game. But correct me if I'm wrong. I don't really know. I don't intimately know what the Jets' situation for this game is, to be honest. I don't see anyone give more than 1.5 million. I mean, I like the guy, but he's lacking parts of his game. Who are we talking about here? Oh, Sprong. Yeah, I can't see him getting much more than 1.5. And honestly, much more than one, I wouldn't really want the Kraken to pay. Like you said, like he does have a really really good shot, which is something the Kraken I feel like have kind of underutilized ever since those first few games where he scored a goal in his first 3 games with the Kraken. All three, one in each of the first 3 games, using 2 of them using that really really good shot that he has, but I feel like it's just been underutilized by the Kraken since then. He's gotten like some breakaways and he's created some plays, but especially when it comes to like setting up plays on the power play, it just doesn't seem like it's really panned out that much, which is weird considering that seems like the perfect spot. Just go set him up in Ovi's office and let him fire bombs. I mean, he even said as much when he was on that scoring streak to start with the Kraken, that he learned a lot, specifically on the power play. He learned a lot on the power play from Ovi while he was in DC. So, you know, you're not going to get a much better teacher than that when it comes to scoring on the power play, being that he's the all-time NHL power play goal scoring leader. How much time left? We're at just over 6 minutes left in the first at this point. There's a bit of a delay. There's I think like a 15-second delay from when I'm talking and when you're actually seeing it on YouTube, and then a bit of a stream delay as well. So actually probably not that much of a stream delay because I'm actually watching this through Root. So maybe a little bit of a stream delay still because it's not actually like through cable, but... Oh, here's Matty Beniers. Beniers with the puck. Always fun. Passes it around the... Oh, Donato. Got it out to Rask. Rask up to Chalowski. Chalowski to Beniers. Rask back down. Beniers will have it along the boards. Beniers keeps it along the boards. Drops it for Rask. Rask out front. Oh, Donato couldn't... He got the shot off, but it was... off the pad. Comrie. And the Jets will get a breakout. Kraken will go for a change. Good pressure there by the Beniers line. I'm from Israel. Love your videos. Thank you. Appreciate it. All the way over there. That's awesome. Glad to be making some hockey fans around the world. Now, obviously, finding a sheet of ice to skate on is not the easiest thing, depending on where you are in the world. But roller hockey is also great fun and not too dissimilar. Played with a ball usually rather than a puck, which is the biggest difference. But get some roller blades and a flat piece of pavement, or just play in the street, you know. And obviously you can watch it from wherever. As long as you got some way to stream, or I guess watch on TV, but streaming's probably easier. I can't imagine there's too many national broadcasts over in Israel of the NHL. Game over. Was it 1-0 Jets game over? Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a particularly high scoring game. I feel like, especially the Kraken are getting some good pressure. They'll find a way to score here at some point in the game. Maybe not in the first period with there being just about 3.5 minutes left, but I don't think it'll be a shutout, but it's probably like 2-1 Jets. Maybe I said 3-2 at the start. The way this first period has gone, maybe more 2-1, but you know, especially once we get to the third period and it's the last 20 minutes of the season for both teams, maybe they start getting sloppy and a couple goals happen. Appleton's down behind the net. His favorite place. Wemberg pinched off along the boards trying to go up the... Let's go Kraken. Absolutely. Win-win for the Kraken. Either they win the game, which is always fun, or they lose and maintain their spot in the draft lotto at the 3rd spot rather than dropping to 4. The only way the Kraken can really lose here is by losing in overtime, because then they lose the game and lose their spot, their third spot in the draft lotto. What would your reaction be if you met the Undertaker? I don't know. Like, shake his hand, maybe get a picture. I'm not a huge like. Definitely not as into wrestling as I know you are, Riley, but definitely not as into wrestling as some people. It's fun every now and then, but it's not like I don't really follow it. I I think Roman Reigns is still going, but honestly, I couldn't tell you who's still in WWE, and I don't know anything about AEW. So other than it exists, pretty much all I know about AEW is that it's a wrestling league and it exists. So yeah, I mean, obviously the Undertaker is like an iconic WWE wrestler, so or just wrestler in general. But yeah, I'd be like, I know who he is, so maybe get a picture and shake his hand. Hello, Mr. Undertaker. Although to be honest, like I've had a chance to like go to some of the press conferences and stuff like that, so I've in some way or another met a lot of like the Kraken players. There's not a lot of like even famous people that I would be like, I don't know, especially like at this point in my life, there's not a lot of famous people that I would be like, like the speechless, like I don't know what to say, like the embarrassing yourself kind of thing around them. Ken Griffey Jr. is my like childhood hero, so if I met Junior, then that would probably be a little. There'd probably be some tied tongue and trying to keep it cool but failing kind of thing going on there. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who else outside of him. Egger maybe a little bit of the same. Seahawks wise, I really don't know if there's anybody Seahawks wise that I would feel that way about. Like maybe Steve Largent, but even then, I never watched Largent play, so I maybe would have said that about Russell Wilson until this year, or maybe even Bobby Wagner. Although like Wagner, it wasn't his fault. The Seahawks were handled Wagner like a bunch of idiots, so don't want to get into that too much. That we're having fun with the Kraken this season though. As far as hockey players, like I think if you met Wayne Gretzky, that would probably be a bit of a mind blowing moment for sure. Um, Even Sidney Crosby or Ovechkin might be a little bit that way as well. Uh, I did see Sidney Crosby in the hallway leaving the game when they played in Seattle, but just kind of saw him from a distance. I can't put myself to cheer for the Kraken to lose this game, although it's better for them in the long run. Yeah, I mean that's kind of how I feel right now too. Like I am cheering for the Kraken to win this game, but there's a little bit of like, I mean the Jets have a 1-0 lead right now, and like that's the goal the Jets scored. Well, it was kind of frustrating that it came off of a complete defensive breakdown and a 2-on-1 breakaway. That part of it, like how the goal happened, was kind of frustrating, but it was kind of like, darn, like I'll definitely be excited for the Kraken scoring goals and a little bummed to watch the Jets score goals, but it's it doesn't feel like other games where you're just, even if you're cheering for the Kraken to do well, it doesn't necessarily feel bad to see them let a goal up here and there. Let's see here. Stopped watching WWE after Shawn Michaels was done. Yeah, so yeah, that's how little I know about WWE. Is I don't even don't even know who Shawn Michaels is, which I'm assuming is I'm assuming he's a pretty notable WWE wrestler. Oh, Shan with a chance. Oh, nice setup by Wenberg. It's kind of a broken 2-on-1, so not really a true one, but Wenberg eventually got the pass off. It was just Shan was just in front of the net, so he didn't really like have a chance to put it wherever he wanted, kind of thing. Oh, good pass over. Susie just couldn't quite handle it. Donskoy with the puck. Down into the corner. Oh, the Jets are going to get it broke. Going to be able to break it out here. Kraken will go off for a change. And that's the end of the first. So end of one, it's 1-0 Jets. Kraken leading shots on goal 10-8. Yeah, 1-0 Jets on that early 2-on-1 breakaway. So let's get this updated here. Oh, this is the wrong one. They changed some things in Photoshop, made it a little bit less streamlined to do this the way I used to do it. Where is the Jets game? There it is. That should do it. That should do it. Now we should be there. Becky Lynch. I've heard of Becky Lynch. I think I liked Becky Lynch. I can't remember. I know I either liked her or didn't like her, but I think that I liked Becky Lynch. Cuz the only like wrestlers I really know are like the super famous ones like the Undertaker or any of the people that were around in like 2015, because that was kind of 2014, 2015 is kind of when I watched a fair amount of it, because I had a roommate at the time that watched it, and it was kind of like if he had it on, it was, you sit down and have something to drink and hang out and watch it kind of thing. But yeah. What do you think about chances the Kraken will draft Connor Geekie? I mean, it depends on where they end up falling in the draft lotto. So, I mean, by the way, for those of you who are here, we will be streaming the draft lottery. We'll be streaming the draft lottery on the 10th. So, come hang out for the draft lotto on the 10th. It'll be fun. Yeah, it kind of depends on where the Kraken end up drafting in the lotto. I will say, like, Connor Geekie being, I think he's like 6'4". He's a pretty big forward, so he does fit. He would seem to fit that kind of two-way style that the Kraken like going for. Certainly the size that they have shown that they like. I mean, especially they like having big defensemen. But it seems like they like size in general. So Geekie could fit that, or Connor Geekie, I should say. And obviously, like, it would be a fun story to have Connor and Morgan play together on the same team. But if they end up picking third, so they're currently in the third spot. If they end up picking third, or even if they drop to fourth and don't drop farther in the lotto itself, then I kind of see Connor Geekie as more of like a like five is kind of the highest, 5 or 6 kind of the highest I see Connor Geekie going. If the Kraken end up picking in the top 3, I think there's better options there. As much fun as it would be to have the Geekie brothers play together. But if they end up winning this game or losing it over, if they end up picking up a point here, dropping to that 4th spot, and then 2 teams jump them in the lotto, so they end up picking 6th. If they end up picking like 5th or 6th, then depending on who those first few picks are, I think Geekie, it's possible. So short answer, it's possible, but I wouldn't say likely. Obviously Shane Wright still seems like the probable number 1 pick, which is what, everyone's kind of hoping for. Logan Cooley is another one he's the one guy that could potentially challenge Shane Wright for being the first pick. And it's kind of like Power and Beniers last year, where it seemed like Power was pretty clearly the first pick, but if you want a forward, maybe you go Beniers. both Cooley and Shane Wright are forwards, both centers, so it's a little different there, but they probably go 1-2. It's probably Shane Wright, then Cooley 1-2. And then third is a lot more up in the air. Personally, for me, if the Kraken end up third and if they end up third and it is in fact Wright and Cooley that go 1-2 in whatever order, then Savoy's probably the one that I'd like to see them go for. Both him and Cooley are smaller players, but with a lot of scoring upside. Both putting up a lot of points in their respective leagues this season. So for me, I know the Kraken like going for two-way forwards, and I'm sure both of them could play. Like they could add that to their game. They're skilled enough players that having some amount of defensive play is something they should be able to do. But the Kraken need scorers at this point. That's kind of what they're missing. They have a lot of good two-way forwards, a lot of defensively, guys that can be and usually are defensively responsible. It's just a matter of actually getting the play set up that way. But what they really need is they need finishers. The Kraken need guys that can put the puck in the net, that will be willing to shoot first. They've got a lot of pass first guys, it's great. Like pass first guys are great. It's great to have that team mentality, but at some point you need somebody to shoot the puck. And there have definitely been a lot of opportunities this season where the Kraken have just done that one too many passes and given up high danger scoring chances to try to get like that one more pass off that if it ends up working, then maybe it is a little bit more of a likely goal, especially like a crossing pass, but they end up putting it through defense that break it up. And so there's definitely been some times where you'd like to see them just take the shot. So having some guys that are willing to shoot first would be good. And I haven't watched really much of Cooley or Savoy play to know that they're shoot first type of players, but they've scored enough this season that I would imagine they at least have that aspect of their game that they're not afraid to shoot first. Or that they're at least not necessarily always looking to pass, like the Kraken do have a lot of guys that will McCann definitely has a great shot and will do it. Beniers we've seen has a pretty good shot and will take shots, but really with both of them, both of them, they're still pass first. Yanni Gord's another one that got a really good shot, but you can tell he's pass first. Like even when they have the puck and they have that chance, they're like the head is always somewhere else. Like they're always looking for that. They give one like quick look for the pass, and if it's not there, then they'll take the shot. You kind of just want some guys that'll just have their head to the net, taking those shots when the pass comes to them. Even if you want more pass first guys, you want at least a couple of guys that will be looking to take that shot. Especially like one guy for the first line, one guy for the second line. Have your shooters, and then and that's part of the reason that I've liked Donato so much, because Donato's honestly the one Kraken player that is more vastly more frequently a shoot first guy. He will pass the puck, but you can tell he wants to shoot it. If he gets an opportunity, he's going to shoot it. And there's been times where he's given up a chance to pass to go for the shot and make one last move. And there's parts of Donato's game that he's not amazing at, but that's part of the reason that I've appreciated Donato as much as I have this season, because he has kind of been the one Kraken player that's willing to be a shoot first player. So anyway, that was a long way of answering the question, but yeah, again, possible but not likely that the Kraken draft Connor Geekie, and if the Kraken are in the top three, I'd like to see them go for one of those scorers in Cooley, Savoy, or obviously Shane Wright if they end up at the first spot. What else do we got here? If the only two acquisitions in the offseason are Klingberg and Fiala, would you consider that successful? Yeah, I mean, Klingberg's another one that I think Klingberg's kind of more like a I mean, I don't want to say this is like he's a good player, but he's kind of the guys that are available right now. That's kind of like the be like a second tier free agent to me, which is still very good. Like, I'd still like to see the Kraken get one or two second tier kind of free agents. Fiala I would consider very much in the first tier, and if the Kraken can get at least one of those first tier free agents, again that we're talking like the Bergeron, Forsberg, Goudreau, Fiala. Fiala is a little bit different because Fiala is an RFA, so Fiala might require the Kraken to make a trade with the Wild in order to actually make that one happen. But yeah, if the Kraken can pick up even one of those, obviously it'd be great if they can get two of them. You know, kind of the dream scenarios that the Kraken pick up like Forsberg and Fiala or Forsberg and Goudreau, because they have the money to do it. They'll have the cap space to go for two of those big name guys. If they can pick up two of them, that's like an absolute, great free agency for Seattle. But if they can even pick up one of the big name guys and then one or two of those kind of second tier free agents like a Klingberg, then yeah, I would consider that a win in free agency for sure. And then if they only pick up those two, then that frees them up to keep some of the guys around that have had, like, that still keeps space for like a keep space for like a Kuhlman, keep space for Sprong if you want to bring him back. Opens up, gives you some space to maybe as like a third tier free agent go back and try and get like bring Blackwell back, that kind of a thing that we talked about earlier. Even Yarncroke will probably be out there as, again, kind of like a third tier free agent. One of those, yeah, like a depth free agent. Contributing depth, I should say. Today's the makeup game from that nasty weather in Winnipeg from a few weeks ago. Yeah, so this game it's the last game of the NHL regular season. Everybody but these two teams finished their regular season, or pretty much everybody. I think all the teams played. Either way, the rest of the regular season ended on Friday. This is again, yeah, like he's saying, like Donnell's saying here, it's a makeup game from a blizzard that Winnipeg had when this game was supposed to happen like a week ago, or week and a half, something like that. So yeah, it's a makeup from that one. So that's why we got this one weird game happening in the middle of the day on a Sunday, 2 days after the rest of the regular season finished, and 2 days before the playoffs start. Not quite as weird as, is it last year? Yeah, not quite as weird as last year, where I think there was like still a regular season game that happened as playoff games were going on. That was kind of weird. Obviously, COVID being the big asterisk on all of the last two seasons before this one. Even this one to some extent. I mean, we got a full 82 somehow. NHL managed to make that happen largely because they didn't go to the Olympics. They managed to get a full 82, but it was still a season definitely affected by COVID, especially for a team like the Kraken, that COVID really kept them from gelling as a team until, like, they basically had to learn how to play together in the season itself. They didn't really get much of a preseason, or especially practicing after the draft to learn how to play with each other that much because of restrictions and all that. So but yes, this particular game was made up. I think that this is the first delayed game because of a not COVID reason in a while, but this one being made up because of weather, not COVID. So it's a refreshing change of pace, at least. Also, I see you wearing the Adidas Kraken away jersey on the live stream. Absolutely, yep. Yeah, I mentioned this before. I like wearing this one for the live streams just because it's, I like to mix it up a little bit. And most of these, because I'm going to most of the home they're all done for this season, but because I go to most of the home games at this point, streaming wise, that means most of the streams are going to be away games. So, away jersey works perfectly for an away stream. And I don't really wear it that much in the R&Rs just because white jerseys do tend to stain pretty easily. And so if you wear it, if I wear it too much, then a stain will happen. And I'm not talking about like a food stain, obviously. I'm not like, eating while I'm filming an R&R or anything like that. But like sweat stains or whatever. Like how white jerseys or white shirts get, like they just accumulate stains out of nowhere. So trying to keep that from happening to this one just by limiting the amount that I wear it. So just wear it for streams here and there, then that works out. Can't win if you don't shoot. Yeah, exactly. Talking about Donato, that's the Kraken offense has been like, if you look over the course, like the league. I mean, here, I'll see if I can pull it up, but the Kraken have not been a great offensive team this season. They've gotten a fair amount of shots on goal. Like they're not terribly ranked as far as shots on goal or really even goals scored, because they've shot a fair amount. The problem is that the shots the Kraken are getting are a lot, like all from the outside. And yeah, it's again like rush chances where they just try to pass it too many times on the rush. I don't know. They just need guys that are more willing to shoot and not pass too many times, and guys that are willing to shoot when they get those chances in the inside. Not just like defensemen that are willing to shoot from the blue line, like guys that are willing to take those shots when they get the shot in the slot. Like if they're in the slot, they get a chance, or they're at the bottom of the face-off circle, they get a chance next to the net. Take those shots rather than trying to pass it back across one more time. Let's see where are the Kraken in goal scoring. Let's figure this out. Oh, hold on. All right, here we go. Goals per game. That's what we want. So yeah, the Kraken are currently fourth. I was wrong. They actually are not doing great at scoring at all. They're fourth to the bottom of the league in scoring. 2.59 goals per game for the Kraken, which has been actually gone up over the 10 games of Beniers playing for the Kraken. They've been like I would say like 3.4 goals per game in the 10 games that Beniers played for them. Oh, this camera's shaking there a little bit. Sorry, I bounce my leg sometimes and it shakes the camera there. But yeah, so the Kraken, there's only 3 teams that are scoring less than the Kraken per game, or I guess have scored less. It's Arizona has the least goals per game at 2.51, then Philly at 2.56, and San Jose at 2.57. So yeah, only 3 teams there that the Kraken have scored less than over the course of the season. They could potentially jump the Blackhawks here if they score 3 goals in this game, but I kind of don't see that happening. I think this is probably a 2-goal game. And they pull this live stream thing back up here. Damn, Kraken just had to miss out on the first overall pick. I mean, the Arizona won some games here at the end of the season. Where did they end up? Arizona ended up like kind of coming back a little bit because Arizona ended up blowing it. The Habs ended up getting the first overall pick. Which kind of surprised me. The Habs had a good run there for a bit, so I thought they were gonna pull it out. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like I didn't really ever expect the Kraken to get the first overall, or I mean, they could still get the first overall pick. I didn't expect them to get the first odds, the best odds, just because I didn't think they were going to be able to keep up with Arizona. The Habs ended up falling completely apart until the last 2 games of the season for them. So yeah, the Kraken end up 3rd or 4th if they end up winning this game or going to overtime. Let's see points. So yeah, so Arizona finished 3 points at the moment. So if the Kraken lose this game, Arizona has 57 points. The Kraken have 60. Montreal has 55. So yeah, I mean, where Seattle was at in the standings, there's a couple of moments where they were last, but it was like during games that they then would end up winning. And honestly, like the Coyotes are just a bad enough team that they should have been last. The Habs just had a absolute nightmare of a season in just about every possible way. So that's the only way the Habs end up there. Um, and look, the Kraken still could end up getting the first overall pick. They'll have oh, nice save by Drieger. Wow. He kind of got shoved off to the side by Stastny and then dove back and made a blocker save while diving headfirst at the puck. Gonna be nice to find another top line center in the top 5 of this draft, though, wherever the Kraken pick. Yeah, it'll be good to get another. And Lego Rocks there. I know Lego Rocks likes to talk about the prospects. So I don't know if I was talking about earlier who the Kraken could get. Obviously, Shane Wright probably goes first, and then Logan Cooley seems second. But like, if the Kraken were picked third, I'd be interested to see who you would think the Kraken should take third. Personally, I think Savoy is the one that I would like to see the Kraken get third. But yeah, Lego Rocks. Anybody, if any of you guys if the Kraken do end up getting third pick here or fourth, if anybody has an opinion on who you think the Kraken should pick there. Obviously, with that being kind of the biggest thing on the line that's in this game is the difference between the third or fourth odds and the lotto. But that difference, by the way, being if the Kraken lose this game, they get the third best odds, which is 11.5% chance at the first pick, winning the lotto and getting that first pick. If they go to overtime or win this game, then they drop to the fourth spot with Philly going down to the third. Or going up to the third, I guess, but going down in the standings. And the fourth spot is a 9.5% chance. So it's a 2% drop for the Kraken if they win or go to overtime in this game. So not a huge drop, but obviously, you'll take every 2% at Shane Wright you can get. Yeah, same here. Really high on Savoy, despite the evasion issues. Yeah, evasion and size. That was kind of the thing with both Savoy and Cooley is they're definitely smaller, but like the Kraken have enough big guys that play well two ways that I kind of feel like having one or two guys, even if they're small, having one or two guys that might not have the size but can skate around, maybe not skate around in Savoy's case, but some guys that are good with the puck and can put up points. You don't need every guy to be a hard checking player. Ooh, that was a good chance for the Jets. Obviously, Beniers, we've kind of seen that's kind of been the one weak spot of Beniers' game so far in these 10 games is he does not have the size. He gets pushed around quite a bit. But he's 19 years old, so he'll fill out a little bit, and that's something that Ron Francis has already talked about pretty openly, that they want to work with Beniers in the offseason, is putting on some weight, getting some more muscle on him. Obviously, in the NCAA, he doesn't really need much more size than he has, and he's talented enough that he can get around players and avoid big hits. And even with the fact that he can get pushed around, we've seen him get pushed around a fair amount. Like, we've seen him get pushed off the puck a couple of times. But he's still really good along the boards. He's still, stepped in and right away been one of the better players for the Kraken along the boards, winning puck battles, which is kind of for a player that, again, doesn't necessarily have the NHL size quite yet. It's been kind of surprising to see how good Beniers has been around the boards. It's just kind of open ice and entering those puck battles that we've seen him get pushed around a little bit. But anyway, yeah, either Savoy or Cooley, even if the size isn't there, then, all you're really looking for from oh boy. Oh, that was almost a breakout chance. It's still an open one-on-one, but he couldn't settle the puck down in time to really get a good shot off. Almost 2-0 there a couple of times for the Jets. Draft picks are magic beans. Could be great, could be nothing. Absolutely, it's definitely true. especially the later on you get in the draft. I will say this about the NHL: the draft, especially, I mean, it depends on what you're used to. If you're used to like, but if you're used to like the NF, if you're used to the NBA, then the NBA is probably the most sure thing when it comes to top picks, usually being pretty good players. Oh, another good chance over the Jets. Is that That was Barron again who scored the first goal. Oh, here's Sprong. Shoot it, Sprong. Oh, oh, Lind almost put that in. Former Canuck Lind. Um, Sorry, I was trying to regather what I was saying there, but yeah. Anyway, like I was saying, like you just want score, like a scorer maybe centering or at least on the wing of one of your top lines, and those guys don't need to be. Honestly, if they're a top scorer, you really don't want them playing a hugely physical game because that just opens them to injuries a little bit more sometimes. Um, oh yeah, got a delayed penalty here for the Kraken. Chance to make something happen. 6-on-5. Gord shot. Kraken keep. Oh, he didn't touch it. Still didn't touch it. Shoot it, McCann. Still delayed penalty. Gord. Oh, okay, now they're gonna. Oh, they'll blow it dead. Um. Yeah, it's. So I'm not too worried about the size of Savoy or Cooley if the Kraken get them. I just want that scoring upside. And you know what? You never know. We've, Gallagher has made a Gallagher, as being a kind of a small guy in Montreal, has made himself quite a career of being a pest, not being particularly big. Same with Marchand for Boston. Not quite as small, but small guys can still I mean, Gord's not really all that big either, and he'll throw himself around. So size is not always a killer. Now, when you're like a young guy, like a teenager, like all those guys and Beniers are, you're not you know not fully physically developed yet, still maturing physically. So still plenty of time to put on some weight. Beniers with the puck actually right now on the power play. Oh, nice pass! Oh, they scored. Oh, sorry, I couldn't tell if they had it first. Alex Wemberg on the power play. Beniers to McCann to Wemberg into the back of the net. So Wemberg will get the goal. McCann and Beniers with the assist. So Beniers, that's 9 points now in 10 NHL games. So Beniers took a shot, picked up the rebound, got it over to McCann. McCann to Wemberg, and Wemberg in. Yeah. Yeah, Wemberg just hung out right in the back door, got left alone just standing in the back door, and nice passing play. And the biggest thing there, a quick decision by McCann to pass it. That's the bit, like, the problem with the Kraken power play really all season while it's been playing bad. I mean, just straight up bad. I mean, even worse, it's just been terrible. But the biggest thing with the power play is just that, like, they pass it around fine. They can hold the offensive zone not terribly infrequently. The biggest problem for them has been that the passing is just so slow and deliberate that it makes everything they do incredibly predictable. None of the shots are coming with, you're not keeping the goaltender on his toes. Like, entire defense and goaltender, the penalty killers and goaltender all have a chance to rotate wherever the puck is before a shot is ever taken, just with how slow they pass it around the outside. And there we saw, Beniers got a rebound, got a pass quickly across to McCann. McCann made a quick decision out to Wemberg, and they didn't have enough time to recover, and it ends up in the back of the net. So let's see here, get caught up on the comments a bit. Let me get the score changed here. Make sure we get that, then we'll get some comments going. Again, Beniers with another assist, so that's 3 goals and 6 assists for Beniers in his NHL career so far. Let's see here. Vegas won't win the cup. Nope, they're out of the playoffs for the first time. Um, Nobody wants to go to Vegas after how horribly they treat former players. Who turns on the news to find out they've been traded? Well, uh, uh, I mean, yeah, I agree. You should probably let players know before the media finds out that they've been traded or released, for that matter. But yeah, that's something the Seahawks could have done better about recently as well. For that, like, not traded. I think the Seahawks let guys know when they're getting traded, but especially like um, both Wagner, well, first Sherman a few years ago, and Wagner found out that they had been released. I think via the news or social media or whatever. They didn't find out. They either way they didn't find out from the team that they had been released. Which, so yes, that doesn't, just because, yeah, fully agree. Like, if I was a player in the NHL, like, Vegas is definitely, like, you're gonna be competitive with Vegas, but yeah, like, I'd fully agree. Like, I definitely see how Vegas has been treating, especially with Marc-Andre Fleury, because, like, Dodonov's, the way they treated Dodonov is definitely off-putting, but it really wouldn't stand out that much because he's not, like, he's a good player, but he's not like a face of the franchise type of player like Fleury was. But the fact that they were willing to treat Fleury the way that they did after him being, again, the face of the franchise for the first few seasons, and reportedly having been told by the owner himself that he was gonna be a Golden Knight until he was ready to retire. Yeah, that would be enough to really make me think twice about going to Vegas if I had the option as a player. Even with them being a competitive team, like, you can find another competitive team to go to. So, on the other hand, Vegas is willing to shell out money. We've seen that. So, if they're going to pay you if they're going to give you a contract that gets you a couple extra million per year for a few years, then maybe it's worth that possibility of being blindsided by a trade or being released or whatever. But was it a full house crowd for I don't know if it's a full house for the Jets here. I don't know if they reported. They haven't reported it yet, but it looks pretty full. So no 55 for the Jets again. Yep. Yeah, the Jets are definitely not out there with their full cast of characters. Obviously, without Hellebuck in goal, it's Comrie in goal for them. Hate to say this, but Drieger will not be a Kraken next year. You need to protect Decord at that age. That's the reason that Drieger got these last two games. They're showing other teams how good he can be. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a bit of a situation. We haven't really talked about it yet. That's something I'll talk about in, like, once we get to kind of season review and looking forward to the off season type of things for the Kraken. We'll get some videos together for those here in the next week or so. Yeah, that's because Decord is no longer waiver protected. Um, the Kraken have three goaltenders that, if they were to try to send one of the three of them to the AHL, would need to clear waivers. And I mean, Drieger obviously wouldn't clear. Decord, I don't think would clear either. So they are going to have to figure out something there between Decord and Drieger. Obviously, Grubauer, you're probably still holding on to for another year. You kind of signed him as the franchise goaltender for a few years, and on top of that, with his contract and how this season went for him, you're probably not going to find what you would want from that anyway. So it probably does mean Drieger leaves, which is unfortunate. Drieger's one of my, I'll say, like, he's probably the most entertaining Kraken player in an interview. Eberle gives really good answers, but Drieger's probably the most entertaining of all the Kraken players in the post game interviews and that kind of stuff. So from that perspective, and I mean, he's just, he's a good goaltender, and I think he's again kind of struggled with a lot of the same things that Grubauer struggled with this season. I think he's got potential to be a good goaltender, and definitely a guy that has that. He has that potential to have that like just out of nowhere great season. Whether or not he can do it as a full-time starter, like that's the one thing that's kind of an unknown about Drieger, is he's never had the chance to be a real full-time starter. And sometimes that can be too much for a guy, so. Oh, Dubois got a good chance right in front of the net. But yeah, you kind of think that you'd probably have to keep Decord. Plus, it comes with the bonus that Decord, isn't gonna. I mean, Drieger's contract's like $3.5 million, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, $3.5 million for 2 more seasons. So, with Decord, Decord's still got 1 season of 750,000. So that is like almost $3 million in extra cap space for free agency that if you do trade Drieger that you can free up there. So I mean, if you're choosing between Drieger and Decord, especially if you're riding Grubauer as your starter going at least into 1 more season, then yeah, I think that's probably the decision you make. Because I agree, I don't think you can really let Decord go with how he's played in the AHL. Granted, he really did not look. He looked really good in the preseason, but other than like some stretches here and there in the games he played in, he did not really put up a full great performance in the NHL. He didn't get a lot of great chances, and he was put in some tough spots, like often being called up and then right after being called up going into a game like the next day. It's just kind of like you're traveling and then right into a start for a team you haven't been playing for. So definitely not the easiest situation, but I don't know. Again, a bit of a ramble there, but I would agree Decord probably is the one that has to stay between the two. Because I agree, I don't think either Decord or obviously not Drieger, but I don't think Decord sneaks through waivers either. Oh, Sprong put it in. I looked away for a second to look at a comment and look back right as Sprong's putting it, I think, through the 5-hole there. So it's 2-1 Seattle. So with the score the way it is, the Kraken are currently sitting in the 4th slot there for the draft. Pouliot to Sprong, and Sprong just put it over the blocker, under the glove, and in. It went glove side, right under the glove arm and over the pad. So good shot there by Sprong. Not necessarily the best skater or the most agile skater, but he does have a good shot. Good one-timer, good wrist shot. Can place it pretty well. Defensively could be better, but yeah, I mean, again, we talked about wanting guys that have good shots, so. Dylan gave Sprong a bump there and then rode him into the boards, but we've already seen this has not been a very physical game between the two teams. I mean, neither one of them is really looking to lay big hits or take big hits in the final meaningless game of the season. Yeah, so here we are, like halfway through the second. Actually, more than halfway through the second, and there's only been 12 hits in the game total, so. Yeah, let's see here. Way score is up to 2. Let's go. Kraken in position to get the game win. Maybe not the lotto odds win, but get the game win. Beniers as a growing player, he will be better when he is 21 and by then has experience. I mean, yeah, the typical peak of a player is like between 27 and 29 years. So, I mean, yeah, if say that a player's athletic, an NHL, especially like a forward, their peak is at 27 years, something like that, then yeah, Beniers could be at his peak in his like 8th to 10th season in the league, which yeah, that's definitely it's an exciting future for Beniers in Seattle for sure. Western Conference Avalanche in 5 over the Preds, Blues in a toss-up series against the Wild. Wait, oh, but I go with the Wild. Um, yeah, I mean, I think the Wild win that series pretty easily. To be honest, I think I had the Wild in 5 over the Preds. Uh, Avs in 5 over. Oh, the Avs are playing the Preds. Sorry, I got that mixed up. The Blues. Oh, Blues and Wild, a bit of a toss-up series. Yeah, I still think the Wild win that though. Um, oh, shot by Pouliot. Yeah, I mean the Blues are a good team and they're tough out in the playoffs. So, yeah, like you said, and I mean the Wild certainly don't have a history of great playoff performances, so that could be a. I could see that series going either way, but I think the Wild have something here with this team. I don't know that it's enough to get past Colorado. Oh, and Sheahan put it in from Wenberg. That's just a defensive breakdown by the Jets. Yeah, just a complete defensive breakdown by the Jets, and Wenberg got across to Sheahan waiting in the back door. So Sheahan just kind of drifts backwards and gets. So he picks up the puck kind of in front of the net and then kind of drags it over and just lifts it right over the pad just under the glove. There's a tiny little gap there to put it into, and he was able to do it. That's a tough one for Comrie, but yeah, he just kind of drifted open. Just kind of got left alone by the Jets right in front of the net. All right, we're up to 3-1. So, Kraken fans that like watching the Kraken win, and Flyers fans certainly are happy to see the score going the way it is at this point. 6:20 left in the second period, and it's 3-1 Kraken. But yeah, as far as playoffs, I'll be cheering for the Avs. But yeah, I think especially without Saros and net, which that's such a bummer with the Preds the way their season was going, especially for Saros. But yeah, especially without Saros and net for that series, I think the Avs win that. I didn't pick it as a sweep, but I think that could be a sweep. Um, I picked it as a Avs win in 5. Wild Blues. Blues are always a tough out, but I think the Wild really have something with this team, and especially if they get goaltending from either Fleury or Talbot, whichever one. I think it's probably going to be Fleury that gets the first start, but I'd imagine both play in the series. Yeah, if the Wild get goaltending, they should win that series. I would say, I think I said 6 games, but I could see it going to 7 as well. Um, Flames over the Stars in 6. I think that's a pretty safe one. I don't know that I trust Calgary going super deep in the playoffs. I could maybe see them in the Western Finals, but only because they would end up. So the other one's the Oilers over LA, which I think the Oilers do win that series. Um, so I guess I could see the Flames making a deep run just because they'll have their path is their path looks like it's Stars Oilers, which yeah, I mean the Oilers defensively and goaltending. Smith has had a good end of the season, so maybe he's riding a heater going into the playoffs, and you never know. Goaltender gets hot in the playoffs, they can make a run, especially with the forward talent that they have. But oh, that would be such a fun series too. The Battle of Alberta in a playoff series, like you can't not want just be cheering for that to happen, right? But ultimately, I think the two best teams in the West are probably the Wild and Avs. So I would say confidently that the Avs win that series in the second round between them and the Wild, assuming that happens. If it wasn't for the issues the Avs have had in the second round of the playoffs with very good teams, even like last year and the year before that. So I'm not taking anything for granted with the Wild past the second round, or with the Wild with the Avs past the second round. Three and a half minutes left. Whoa. Donskoy almost put it through the 5-hole. Kraken keeping the pressure on here. Shots are 22-12 in the favor of the Kraken. Just 4 shots in the period so far from the Jets. The Preds need to trade Saros. I can't imagine them trading Saros. I think he's kind of proved that he's the future of the team. They'll figure out. And I mean, oh, Drieger with a big save on Appleton. Oh, Appleton almost put it in against the Kraken. Mason Appleton too. The Appleton getting another shot. Oh, nice pass by Appleton that almost ended up as well, but Pionk put it. Oh no, who was that put it wide? I don't know who that was that put it wide, but what a shift from Appleton. Great scoring chance that took a good save from Drieger, and then a pass that also created a good scoring chance that just missed the net. Still just 5 shots on the period, though. That shot from Appleton, just the 5th of the period for the Jets. Oh, Beniers! Oh, what a move! Oh, he almost just split all the way through the defense. Got the puck to the net. Not really a shot, but... Pouliot, Beniers will get to it. Oh, nice pass, Beniers. Oh, Beniers back over the other side also has it. Oh, Beniers with some space. Chalowski. Kraken just holding this zone with 1 minute left in the period. Kuhlman's out there, so Beniers must... Oh, no, Beniers is still out there. Oh, nice. Wow, what a shift. Especially for Beniers. It didn't lead to a point, but that was a very, very good shift by that line. Beniers just controlling the offensive zone. And that'll be icing. Third pick be damned. Enjoying the heck out of this, the blank out of this game. Appreciate the censorship there. I try to keep it clean. I'm not gonna go through like deleting messages, but but appreciate keeping clean in the comments there. Little censorship, but yeah, you know what? It's just 2% in the draft lottery. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it will feel bad if the Kraken do end up winning this game, drop to that 4th spot, and then they drop to that 4th spot, and then the Flyers in the 3rd spot get the first pick. That'd be kind of a bummer, but looks like we're gonna get to the end of 2 with the Kraken leading 3-1. So it would take quite a collapse for the Kraken to lose this in regulation, which is what they need to do for draft reasons, but and that should one more chance maybe. Yep, that's it. All right, end of 2. Kraken lead 3-1. Shots on goal in that period were 12-5, I believe. Nope, 14-5. Okay. So Kraken pretty much dominate there in the second. So let's get this changed over to the third period. Flyers fans are enjoying this game. Kraken fans who like watching the Kraken win are enjoying this game. Kraken fans who would like the Kraken to have those 2 extra percent in the draft lottery, maybe a little frustrated, but you know, your team's still getting a win. At the moment, still got a period left. Still plenty of... We've seen the Kraken blow 2 goal leads before and recently, so it's far from over. Grew equals sunken cost. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how next season goes. I think next season kind of will tell the story for Grubauer one way or the other. One season, especially when it's the first season of a goaltender in a new situation, much less it being an expansion team where everyone's learning to play together, that is a tough, can be tough for even a good goaltender. Obviously, we saw Marc-Andre Fleury do really, really well with that inaugural season for the Golden Knights, but that was definitely a bit of a different situation. They had a regular season and not a COVID regular season. They were able to kind of work things out together, get some practice, get a real preseason in, which the Kraken weren't really able to do with COVID. So yeah, it's just a tougher way to start your inaugural season with COVID for the Kraken, and Grubauer definitely had a tough season. If that continues into next year, then yeah, 2 years in a row, that at that point it's definitely a trend. But he's been better, definitely better over the back half. Like, as the Kraken have gotten better, Grubauer's gotten better this season, and you know, I've said it, I don't know how many times over the course of the season, but this year we saw an example of what a second season in it with a new team can do for a goaltender with Markstrom in Calgary, where Markstrom was not great that first year in Calgary last year, but this year was fantastic for them. If it wasn't for what Sorokin is doing in New York, I think he would. I mean, he might still be a finalist for the Vezina, but he would have a chance at the Vezina if it wasn't for what Shesterkin has done in New York. Get this saved up real quick. There we go. Oh, I don't even think Drieger saw that shot coming. I think Appleton just hit Drieger's shoulder, which, you know, put yourself in the right spot and they hit you, then you still put yourself in the right spot. But yeah, so far a well-played game by the Kraken. Kind of a lackluster start, which I think was kind of to be expected, but Kraken really showing I mean, honestly, I shouldn't even say lackluster start. They kind of, obviously they had the defensive issue that led to that first goal by the Jets, and Drieger had to make some nice saves in the first. And then, you know, obviously we saw a couple of nice saves in the second, but so, I mean, Drieger's had to play well in this game. The Kraken have gotten the majority of the shots, kept the puck in the other end of the ice for most of the time. Yeah, I was kind of expecting this to be, especially going to Winnipeg after having that incredible high energy, exciting, great, finale type of game for their last home game on Friday. This really seemed like a game that the energy really wouldn't be there. It's a makeup game that's pretty much meaningless against a team that isn't going to the playoffs either. It's going to be their last home game, so they might have, want to put on a show for their fans. It seemed like one that the Kraken might... They didn't come in with necessarily what I was expecting to be a great chance to win, but the guys that are out on the ice are definitely giving it their all. Not taking it easy, and so far so good as far as winning the game is concerned. Let's see. Let's go back. Going back here a bit in the comments. I know this was out here for a while. How do you feel about the Golden Knights missing the playoffs for the first time? Personally, I know there's a couple of people in this chat, Riley. I know you're one of them that are not going to be happy to hear this, but I could not be happier about the Vegas Golden Knights missing the playoffs for the first time. Especially after how they treated Fleury, they had it coming. It's karma for doing Fleury dirty. And it's more than karma. Fleury on that team probably gets them into the playoffs. Honestly, the Golden Knights traded their way out of the playoffs with that one. Let's see here. Julio Rodriguez hit a 3-run home run for the Mariners. Oh no! I said I was going to keep up with the Mariners game, and then I kind of have failed to do that. So that'd be Julio's first home run. Mariners currently winning 5-1 in the bottom of the sixth. Well, I won't lie. I'm a little bummed I missed Julio's first home run for what is ultimately a meaningless Kraken game, but I've watched every minute of the Kraken up to this point. I wasn't going to stop. Yeah. Oh, J.P. Crawford with another home run. J.P. Crawford a home run in the second, was that? Yeah, J.P. Crawford a home run in the second. Toro singled to left, scoring Winker in the fourth, and then Julio with the home run, scoring Toro and Crawford in the sixth. 5-1 Mariners. All right, let's go. Really wish the Mariners had not dropped the first two games in Miami, which, although Miami has a good record so far this season, I mean, the Marlins are terrible. They're going to be terrible at the end of the season. There's no way that's actually a good team. So the Mariners losing the first two of that series, and hopefully they hang on to this one to at least pull one of those games out. But yeah, that's a 4-game losing streak that was not fun to, especially the two in Miami, is not fun to see. But happy for Julio getting his third home run. Jessica, thanks for shouting that out in the chat. To be fair, the Avs have been very injured. Oh, were very injured in the 2020 second round. Yeah, I mean they've definitely had their injury issues in the playoffs. I feel like the Avs, maybe not, like 2020 is just kind of a. I mean, like who. I don't put an asterisk on the 2020 playoffs in the sense that to take anything away from the Lightning winning that cup, but more just like a. It was. I think you kind of came in where like the teams that made it to the playoffs didn't like, well, sure, it was probably like the best teams because they were, had done well in the amount of regular season that led up to the COVID stoppage. At that point, it had been months since any of them had played hockey, and then they're playing in a bubble without fans with COVID going on. So I think that playoff has a bit of an asterisk just from like, I don't think you can look at the records the teams had coming into that playoffs and then expect, like, I don't think there's really even like upsets really necessarily in that playoffs just because of how that playoffs was. I think it was, the teams that won did a good job winning, and the teams that lost, it was a weird situation to be in. 2021 for the 2021 for the Avalanche, that's, yeah, they were injured there as well, but I don't know. Like, I'm an Avs fan. I was cheering for the Avs until the Kraken started, so like that was, the Avs should have gotten past the second round. I don't think there's really any way around it. Like, that was a good enough team that they should have been able to overcome. I don't know. And I say that as a person, as someone cheering for them and will be cheering for them in the playoffs here, so. Yeah, I'll be cheering for the Avs in the playoffs, but hoping they can actually live up to expectations this time, which they've not necessarily done for the last couple of years. The last like fun playoff run the Avs had was when they were the 8th seed and beat the. I think that was before they went to the division seeding, but they beat the Flames when the Flames came in as the 1 seed. maybe that was still division seeding, but it was still like the Avs were the second wild card team and the Flames were the first seed in the West. And the Avs beat them in the first round. I think they swept them even. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they swept them. Alrighty here. What else we got? The draft is a problem for future Jesse. Yeah, the draft is future Kraken problem. The current Kraken just the draft is future Kraken fan problem. The current Kraken fan just wants to see the team win. I can get that. I'm on board with it. Again, it's just 2% in the draft lotto. The difference for the Kraken winning or going to overtime in this game versus losing it is dropping from 11.5% to get the first pick to 9.5% chance to get the first pick. So not a huge difference. Not like, not insignificant, but if you're Francis, are you keeping one or both Flurries? Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to keep Kale Fleury. I'm pretty sure Kale Fleury is still. Let me check here. Oh, so Kale Fleury is an RFA, but like, yeah, he's an AHLer still at this point. So I don't see anybody going after him in free agency, and the Kraken can sign him to a minimum. So I don't see any reason Kale Fleury leaves. Hayden Fleury, again, RFA, kind of the same situation for Hayden. Hayden is more of an NHL player, so like maybe there's a team desperate for defensive depth that might go for him. But he again didn't really have certainly not a consistent season. He showed like some good stuff every now and then. Ending the season injured definitely doesn't help his chances of getting attention in free agency. But both of them are RFAs, and neither one is going to really command much over the minimum, if at all. So, yeah, I think both Flurries are probably back. I mean, Hayden might get like a million a year for. I could see Hayden kind of going for a 1-year deal. Again, this was kind of for a contract season. This was a rough season for him. I could see him going for like 1 year, 1 million kind of thing. Betting on himself and trying to have a better 2022, 23 season, and then, get more money in free agency the next year. So Hayden, I would say, is likely to stay, but not guaranteed. Kale, I would be pretty surprised if Kale isn't back in playing in Palm Springs or Coachella Valley next year. For most of the season, anyway. Cheers, everyone. Hope everyone is having a good Sunday. You as well, Nate. Don't forget to hit the like button. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate you shouting that out. Yeah. Hitting the like definitely helps out. Helps the channel out. Helps us grow. More people find it. Is Blake Wheeler in? I don't think I've seen him. He hasn't made much of an impact if he is in. But I'm pretty sure he's not. Let's find out. Let's find out for sure. Oh, he is in. Yeah, he's only played 8 minutes, though. So, yeah, he's getting pretty limited ice time, but he's playing. He's got 2 shots on goal, so. I'll be honest, I'm watching the Kraken a little bit more than I'm watching the game, but, like, paying a little more attention to the Kraken than the Jets. With this game not meaning anything for either team other than draft positioning. Yeah, but Wheeler's in just having limited ice time. Yep. So I don't know if there's any Flyers fans in here, but I'm sure you're happy to see the score going the way it is. Kraken fans, at least we'll say this Kraken fans on Sunday were happy to see this game going the way it is. Kraken fans on a week from what is that? A week from Tuesday. Well, maybe we'll be less happy then if the Flyers end up getting the first overall pick. But 20 minutes left in the regular season for the Kraken. 20 minutes left of hockey in this inaugural season. 20 minutes left in the season for the Jets as well, because they're not going to the playoffs either, unfortunately for Winnipeg fans. Megs and Bacon happy to. Pretty sure you're the Flyers fan. They're happy to see the Kraken winning this game. I don't mind it. Again, as far as being a Kraken fan with this game, it's a win-win. Either the team gets a win or they maintain their draft position. I will say if they were going to lose this game in regulation, or if they are still going to do it, but if they were going to do it coming in, I probably would have rather they just kind of like, lose it over the course of the game rather than collapsing in the third period like they're going to have to here to lose it. But you know what? Again, win-win. As long as the game doesn't go to overtime, or I should say, as long as the Kraken don't lose in overtime. That's all I care about. Just don't lose in overtime. Just don't lose this one in overtime, please. That'd be the worst possible scenario. Is they collapse here in the third period. Maybe like they collapse late, give up the lead, then tie it in the final minute to go to overtime and then lose in overtime. That would be the worst possible scenario. Yeah, I think that's about as bad as it could get, is if the Kraken give up 3 goals, tie it in the final 2 minutes of the game with an empty net. Like with their net empty, they tie it to tie it at 4-4, go to overtime, and then lose in overtime. That's the worst possible scenario. Shots on goal, yep. So the Kraken have yet to give up 10 shots in a period to the Jets in this game. They gave up 8 shots in the first and 5 shots in the second for a total of 13. Meanwhile, I want to say the Kraken had 10 shots in the first and 14 in the second, so. By the way, if anybody from Root Sports is listening, big fan of you guys adding the shot counter to the top of the scorecard. Big fan of that. Good ad. Alrighty here. Getting ready for puck drop in the third. Teams are getting situated and puck will drop here in just a second. Who do you think they'll name team captain next season with Gio gone? Gord. I'd be assuming they name a captain for next season, which I think they will, considering they named a captain in the first season. I would be shocked if it's not Gord at this point. I've kind of thought, really ever since it seemed pretty likely that Gio was going to get traded, that Gord was the most likely one to end up the captain, just based on how he presented himself, especially warming up before games, and we don't have any access. We don't know what it's like in the locker room at all. No media access at all in the locker room with COVID. But it seemed like Gord often leads warm-ups in practice. He's always the guy around the net dishing out pucks during warm-ups and games. When Beniers came up, he's the guy out on the ice late in practice to help Beniers with one-timers and and showing Beniers how to win face-offs in the NHL. Which is definitely something Beniers struggled with early on in the first few games. I'd be shocked if it was not Gord at this point. The only guy that, I could kind of see an argument for McCann, but from a leadership perspective, the only guy I could really see maybe getting it over Gord would be Eberle. But I think it's going to be Gord. McCann will be an assistant captain next season, but I think Gord gets the C. Pretty back and forth, not much doing for either team here early in the first. About a minute and a half gone, not a shot on goal yet. Kyle Connor also kept pretty quiet in this game by the Kraken. Good to see. Oh, what a move by Connor. He just put it wide. He beat Grubauer, but he did a spin move and a backhand shot and just put it wide on the far side of the net. Just as I said, they kept Connor quiet. He just about put one in. Oh, and then he almost got a rebound in. Connor again. Shot. Oh, Appleton. Oh, Appleton tripped over himself and might have had a chance to wrap that one around. Appleton's had a pretty good game in this one. So good to see the ex-Kraken playing well in Winnipeg, at least this game. Apparently he had a goal in their game on Friday, so good for him. Here we go. Beniers shot. Save, no rebound. Donato was there to put in a rebound if there was one, but shot for Maddie. Oh! Connor spun around Cheyenne, backhanded it through the legs of Drieger, and it went off the post on the other side. What a play by Connor. That just doesn't end up in the net. If he had put that one in, then I think this game was probably at least ends up 3-3. Good defense there by Beniers. Oh, where's the puck? Oh, there's some chaos there, but Drieger was able to eventually get the puck. Oh, yeah, Drieger just got his foot back to the post before he could finally try to whack it in there. Kraken holding on to that 2-goal lead, but the Jets are pressing. They're pressing. They already have 5 shots in this period, so the Jets already with as many shots on goal in this period as they had in the second total, with just over 3 minutes gone in the third here. All right, here's Geeky up ice, up to Sprong. Sprong down into the corner. Oh, Geeky. Got it up to Sprong, up to Pouliot. Pouliot let it past him. Across to Chalowski. Chalowski's looked good for the Kraken in his few games up here. Hope he sticks around. I don't know if he might end up being an AHLer as well. But, although that's assuming he would clear waivers. Again, he's looked good enough that he might not clear a waiver at the start of the season. They try to send him down before the season. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind seeing them give Chalowski a start on the third pair next year, the way he's played so far, depending on if they pick up a defenseman in free agency, obviously, but here we go. So icing on Winnipeg, and we'll get back to the other end of the ice. Kraken did eventually get 2 shots off on goal. Can't wait till next season. I'm sure that we will be a step further and better, although it's a bit tricky with the time difference here in Europe. I'll follow them and you. I'll appreciate it. Thank you. Where in Europe, out of curiosity? I know you've told me before, but I can't keep track of it. Is it you in the UK or Germany? I feel like you were UK or Germany. I can't remember. Let me know, Jesse. I can't. Especially if it's Germany, that's definitely quite a time difference. I know there was some. I know I had a German in here at one point. I can't remember who it was though. Maybe a couple of them. Obviously, watching Grubauer. Everyone loves watching the German goaltender, German gentleman, especially Germans. But yeah, the Kraken they'll be better next year. They can't be worse, right? Like this season, about as much went wrong for the Kraken as it possibly could have. Both in and out of their control, and Wheeler scores. Face-off lost in the defensive end for the Kraken, and Wheeler is out to Wheeler, and he slapped it home right through the 5-hole of Drieger, I'm pretty sure. Who lost that face-off? I think that was Wemberg that lost the face-off. And Wemberg's been pretty good in the face-off circle. Oh, no! Oh, I think that was Susie that whacked that out. Oh, I think that's Susie that whacked it out into the middle there. Oh no, okay. No, Stastny got his stick to it and got it out to Wheeler. Stastny out to Wheeler in the high slot, and Wheeler just slapped it home. All right, the comeback might be on. It's been a good period for the Jets so far. Again, 6 shots on goal for the Jets in this period is already more than they had last period. Wheeler can't handle a bouncing puck, so the Kraken will get a breakout here. Donskoy just dumps it in, and the Kraken will go for a change. Can't wait for next year when Vegas wins the Cup. I don't know about that. I don't know how they're going to win the Cup when clearly the Kraken are going to win the Cup next year. It's going to be a rags to riches story for the Kraken next season. You can't tell me otherwise until it doesn't happen, so we're at least a year away from you being able to tell me that the Kraken aren't going to win the Cup next year. Factually. Anyway. Let's see what else here. Watch Kraken still draft first, even if they surpass the... Yeah, if the Kraken... That would be the ultimate like middle finger to a Flyers fan. Like I mean nothing like really in the Kraken control. Obviously, it's just the odds of the lotto ball. But that would be like the ultimate like bad luck middle finger to the Flyers is if the Kraken win this last game of the season to pass the Flyers, go to 4th, and then that 4th spot gets the first overall pick. That's pretty much the worst case scenario I'd say if you're a Flyers fan. Like it would be annoying if I'm sure it'd still be annoying if the Kraken lose this game and then with the 3rd pick they end up. But I think it would be worse if the Kraken win this game, drop to 4th, and then get the 1st pick. Like that's pretty much the worst scenario for a Flyers fan. Scott, have you ever laughed so hard that you almost peed your pants? No, not quite. I've laughed very hard before, but that's not an experience I've personally had. Um, I've definitely laughed hard enough where it's like you have trouble breathing because you can't stop laughing. That's probably the hardest. I hope the Kraken or Vegas win the Cup. I would say, yeah, I hope that one of those, one specifically of those two wins the Cup. Next year, obviously. Neither one can do it this year. We'll agree on Seattle winning the Cup. How about that? Next year, obviously. NHL draft diehard New York sports fan. NFL draft. Diehard NY sports fan. My hometown football team, Jets and Giants winners in the draft. Yeah, both the Jets and Giants. I didn't really watch the draft much past the first round, I'll be honest, but which really I haven't, as a Seahawks fan, I've not followed the first round of the NFL draft very closely in quite a while, just because the Seahawks never do anything in it. But since they had the ninth overall pick, I watched it closer this year. I was happy with what the Seahawks did, finally taking a lineman early in the draft. Not that they've had early draft picks to do that with for like a decade, but yeah, as for both the Giants and Jets, really good drafts from both of them. Surprisingly, both those teams have been prone to screw things up in the draft and otherwise, but yeah, I mean, as far as picking the right players for the right needs, I think they did as good a job as they could. Whether or not those players end up working out, obviously we'll see. But it seemed like a good draft for both the New York teams. I don't think you can really argue with that. And there it is, tie game. As a NY sports fan, are you pulling for the Rangers here in the playoffs? All right, it's tied 3-3. Yeah, right through the five hole. That one was through the five hole as well. Yeah, Dominic Toninato put that one in. Oh, oh, that almost bounced off of who was that? Pouliot's. I don't know who's. There's a defensive skate right next to the net for the Kraken that almost bounced off of a Kraken player and in. And Drieger just shoved it out with his toe. Oh, what a save from Drieger! Woo! That was almost 4-3 Jets on a couple of occasions there. That was a 2-on-1 chance. Wow, the Kraken have just kind of fallen apart here. Bit. Oh, McCann, you just got to go all the way to the backside. He tried to go five hole. If he had just pulled that around to the far side, I think he had it in. Wow, those are some very good scoring chances at both ends of the ice. All right, well, it's turned into an entertaining game. Can't say that's not true. Held in by Pouliot. Donskoy's got it out to Sheahan, who's up to someone back to Sheahan. I think that was Susie. Wenberg will get it. Oh, that's Chalowski. Sheahan to Donskoy. Oh, nice defensive stick by whoever that was. Appleton, Dupont to Appleton. Look at Appleton getting a chance on that. How the... Oh, Kyle Connor put it in, and just like that, the Kraken have retaken the third spot in the draft. 1, 2, 3, the Jets come back in the third. I don't like that this is playing right into what I said was the worst case scenario coming into the third. Yeah, that's another one through the five hole. Drieger just didn't get the pads down in time. Appleton getting a good chance there on that Connor Dubois line. Kraken only got a fourth round pick for Appleton. That was my least favorite trade of the trade deadline. Not just because I had a soft spot for Appleton, but a fourth seemed like... Yeah, a fourth was not enough for Appleton. Even with him having a bit of a down season, they should have got... I think a third would have been reasonable, but a fourth was not enough. Well, the Jets had 8 shots in the first, 5 in the second, and we're not even halfway through the third, and they already have 11. Yeah, Colin tripping there. So Jets will get the first power play of the game, or second power play. Seattle had one earlier on, and they scored on it too, actually. So there you go. The random successful power play by the Kraken. The Kraken should get a goalie. We'll see. I think you go into next season with Grubauer and see what happens. Again, it's probably Grubauer Decord because they can't keep Decord and Drieger because they're Decord's no longer waiver eligible, so he'd have to go through waivers to get to the AHL, and I don't think he'd make it. So of course, how old is Drieger? I mean, he's got 3 million, but Drieger's only 27, and Decord's 25. So I mean, Drieger's only 2 years older. They could just keep Drieger. I mean, I guess they could try to trade Decord. I don't know. It depends on whether you think who's more NA. Like, do you think Decord's gonna be better than Drieger in 2 years? I don't know. Maybe. Where am I watching the game? I'm watching it on Fubo. I spent most of the season with ESPN Plus and a VPN, but that doesn't work for watching the Mariners, and I wanted to be able to watch the Mariners this season because they're supposed to actually be good. And I actually believe that they are a good team this year, so I wanted to watch the Mariners and eventually just caved and got Fubo because they have Root Sports, which don't get me started on Root Sports. Root Sports is nothing against like the Root Sports, the people that like the Root Sports media, the like obviously JT and um yeah, JT Brown and John Forsland, as well as like the rest of their media and presenters are all great, but Root Sports as like a entity is kind of screwed the pooch pretty bad on this first Kraken season, as far as making it available to even just people in the Seattle like the Kraken. Was it like the Kraken? The area that the Kraken control, like the NHL or the Kraken territory. That's what it is. Like the media territory that the Kraken have. Like anything outside of the immediate Seattle area has been spotty. Whether or not you get live Kraken games on Root Sports, even if you have cable. So honestly, if yeah, it's Roots. Like you pretty much have to have Fubo, or you're just not gonna get Kraken. You're not gonna get the Kraken reliably unless you have Fubo. Which, if you're a big fan of sports in general, honestly, I'd kind of recommend Fubo if you're a big fan of sports in general because they have pretty much anything you could ever want for watching sports. If you're into soccer, like Premier League stuff, that's kind of where Fubo like made their mark in streaming, was streaming soccer. Um, but they've got Formula One. They've got all the big sports. They've got a ton of small sports. Like you can find lacrosse, you can find rugby. And I say small sports, I mean like small sports in the U.S. at least. Um, but yeah, I haven't really been using Fubo that much yet, so I haven't really. I guess I haven't had enough time to have any big issues with it, but I haven't really had a problem with Fubo yet. There was one game where the Kraken and Mariners overlapped, and it seemed like they kind of got their wires crossed, and the Kraken game was a little bit late getting as an option that you could get on Fubo. It would just default to the Root Sports broadcast, which was on the Mariners game, but they figured it out eventually. It was like 5 minutes into the first. So I watched on ESPN Plus for that little bit, and then switched back over to Fubo. You should get started on Root Sports. That'd be fun. I mean, yeah, I don't know. They got a pretty good crew, but if they called me and asked me if I wanted to give it a shot, I'd probably say yes. Why not? You're chilling with your duck. That's cool, pet. 6.5 minutes left here in the third. Again, coming into the third, I said the worst case scenario for the Kraken, with it being 3-1 at the time. The worst case scenario is what they give up 3 goals to give up the lead and then score late in the third to tie it, send it to overtime, and lose in overtime. And so far, the first of those things has happened. Well, look, if it stays the way it is right now, I think you got just about everything you'd want as a Kraken fan from a long-term perspective at the very least. The Kraken would, with the way the game is right now, the Kraken would maintain the third spot in the draft lottery, and Matty Beniers got a point. So there you go. You got a Beniers point and maintain third spot in the lottery. How's my son doing? Good. He's out and about with mom right now, who might be watching. He's still sleeping through nights is still a night to night adventure for him, but otherwise he's good. So there's definitely games like the last R&R. I was definitely pretty tired filming that last R&R, so it was, and with how fun that last game was, I was having a hard time not just like kind of like chuckle my way through the whole thing, just because it was a fun one to recap. There was a shutout, so there wasn't really even anything bad that happened to the Kraken to talk about. It was just like all a great game, awesome experience. That last home game, first shutout in franchise history at home. Last home game, just a crowd was absolutely roaring and into that game the entire game long. So it was a really, really fun game. And yeah, being tired when filming and having it be a fun game, I was just kind of like trying to not laugh the entire time just because it was that much fun. I don't know, which didn't make it the best, didn't make for the best commentary, but that's okay. Well, so much for a 2-goal game. What the heck just happened? I turned away for a couple of minutes, and just like that, the Kraken are down. Yeah, 3 quick goals is what happened. How did that? Let's see that. See what the time difference was on those goals. There was not a lot of time between them. I mean, it wasn't quite like the 3-goal sequence for Dallas or 3 of the goals there for the Wild on that last road trip, but let's see. Kyle Connor. Oh no, here we go. Blake Wheeler scored at basically 5 minutes. Then 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes later, Toninato scored, and then just under 2 minutes after that, Kyle Connor scored. So what is that in total? Just over 5 minutes between the 3 goals. So pretty bad stretch for the Kraken there, but they've at least calmed down since then. I mean, as far as like from a Jets fan perspective on this right now, I would say that this is like, obviously you wouldn't have wanted to be down 3-1 going into the third, but this has been about, it's about as perfect as you could want considering the way they came into the third. Your last home game, obviously last game of the season, so obviously the last home game, but last home game, and your 3-goal comeback in the third, capped off by Kyle Connor with I want to say that was his 47th of the season. Let me make sure I'm right on that. Yeah, 47th of the season for Kyle Connor, capping off the comeback. So if they hang on to win this, then that's just about the perfect way for, from a Jets perspective, to end the season at home. Wait, you have a son? Yeah, I do. Got a little guy, a few months old. Getting closer to a year now, but what's your thoughts on the Seahawks draft picks? Seemed like they did a pretty good job. Obviously, get a couple of linemen in the first 3 rounds. Got a cornerback. So I think the cornerback was the fourth rounder, but maybe it was second. I can't remember if they had 2 second round picks. I know they got a running back in the second round, which you can never. I feel like getting a running back in the top 3 rounds of every draft is never really a bad thing. Because with running backs, with how injury prone running backs can be, especially Seattle running backs ever since Lynch left, you can never have. It seems like you can never have too many running backs. Um, so yeah, liked that pick from them. Definitely like the 2 offensive lineman picks, especially getting a top lineman prospect ninth overall. That was yeah, I mean that was absolutely the right pick for Seattle there. I know a lot of people are hoping they would taking a quarterback. I don't know. Like I feel like you get a couple of linemen, give Drew Lock a year, see what happens. Worst case scenario, he's what most people are kind of expecting, and he's just not that good. And then maybe you look at going for a quarterback once you get, your linemen then have a year that they've, especially especially Cross has like a year under his belt. Then maybe you look for a quarterback to actually be a starter for you if it isn't going to be Lock. But no, Beniers turned it over. Good defense by Ehlers to take that from Beniers. 2.5 minutes left in the Kraken season, unless we go to overtime. Shots on goal are 30 for the Kraken, 27 for the Jets, and obviously 4-3 for the Jets as far as score. 2 minutes now left in the 2 minutes left in the third. Unless the Kraken score, 2 minutes left in the season. I don't think Drieger has left the net yet. Kraken haven't really gotten clear possession, so. All right, so we'll get a face-off in the offensive zone. Face-off in the Jets end of the ice. Oh, imagine if Donskoy of all people was the one to tie it. Good shot there off the. I don't think Drieger's out yet. So I thought with that defensive face-off they would have pulled Drieger, but he's still in there. I guess with a minute left, they're finally like, you know what? Let's just take that third pick. Whoa! Wheeler almost just set up a goal there with a nice pass. Under a minute left. Looks like the Kraken are going to hang on to that third spot in the draft. They never pulled Drieger, so the Jets will complete the comeback here in the third to win the game, unless some crazy crap happens here in the final minute. Nope, Drieger finally did just leave now with 30 seconds left of all things. Stastny blocked by McCann. McCann out with it. 30 seconds left. McCann goes into the deep. Up around Kyle Connor with it. Does he try to take the shot? No. Yanni Gord. And it's offside. I'd imagine Drieger probably goes back in net with the face-off outside the offensive zone there. Maybe not. Doesn't look like Drieger's going back out, so I guess they're keeping the net empty with the face off just outside the offensive zone for the Kraken. Kraken, you had one job. Gonna blow this for me like that. Yeah, Flyers fans not happy with this third period. Megs and Bacon not happy with it. All right, still 6 out for the Kraken. 7 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Out of the zone. 1 offside. That's it. And there it is. The end of the season. The Jets come back in the third to win it 4-3. With the loss, the Kraken secure the third spot in the draft lottery. Third best odds. So the Kraken will have 11.5% chance at the first overall pick in Shane Wright. That, of course, coming on the 10th. We will be streaming for that as well. So if you join for this, we'll stick around here for a little bit. Can talk about the season. Feel free to ask some questions. We'll hang out here for maybe we'll call it 2 o'clock. I think hang out until 2. Reflect on the season a bit, and then we'll have a chance to do some more reflection on the season, streaming. Obviously, we'll have some videos here over the next couple weeks. One more R&R. And then some looking back on the season, looking forward to next season, videos coming up. And then, we'll do a stream for the draft lottery on the 10th. Kraken coming into that draft lottery with the third best odds of that first overall pick, just like they did in their first season, and they got the second pick, which was Matty Beniers, and Beniers now 10 games under his belt in the NHL, has 9 points already, so, hey, not a bad way to start. Not a bad way to start at all. For those of you who have joined and are headed out, appreciate everyone for joining. If you hit that thumbs up on your way out, would greatly appreciate it. Help out the channel a little bit. But thanks for joining either way. Dang, I didn't even get to see the Jets' final game of the season. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Where I'm watching the game. Oh yeah, I'm on Root Sports. I don't know if you're in Winnipeg or if you're in Canada or the US. If you're I don't know if Fubo. I think Fubo is probably in Canada, I would imagine. So you'd probably be able to get. Although it's up, I don't know if Fubo carries whoever the Jets RSN is. They do carry Root Sports as of this year, so that's why we can finally now watch Kraken and Mariners games on Fubo, as well as Trailblazer games, although their season is done as well. I'm pretty sure. I don't think they made the playoffs. Flyers fans pissed off Lamau. Classic Hackstall hockey. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's Hackstall making sure the Kraken lose one last game so that the Flyers get a worse draft odds. Oh, Flyers fans and Hackstall. Name still a better love story than Twilight. Flyers fans and Hackstall still a better love story than Twilight. Had fun, but gotta go. Thanks. Appreciate it, Riley. Thanks for stopping in as always. Thanks, Scott, for someone new to hockey. Your channel and the hockey guy have been great help learning about the game. Absolutely glad to help and honored to be put in the same list as the hockey guy. Glad to help. We'll definitely be doing some more 101s over the course of the off-season. I've got a lot planned for the off-season, so I've got some ambitious plans, I would say, for how many videos I want to do in this off-season, and 32 of them will definitely happen. A couple of streams will definitely happen, so then it's just we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll definitely get some 101s out. I'm in the finishing touches of part 4 of the history of hockey series in the 101 videos. So, and I'm putting in some final sound in this one. So I think it'll be a little bit better than the previous 3 parts, which people seem to like those. So I have a good feeling about how this one's going to be. I think people will like it. It has taken me a little bit of extra time because I wanted to kind of play around with a little bit of adding a little more to the editing side of things. But I think it'll look similar to those. It just might have a little bit more on the sound side of things. And I think think it'll be a good one. I think people enjoy it. So yeah, a little extra time going into editing for this part 4 of the History of Hockey series, but yeah, that'll be out soon here in the next week or so. Hey, I just want to thank you so much for being a huge part of my first NHL season. Absolutely. We'll be back for next year and still got, season's over for the Kraken. Obviously, there's still playoffs, and playoff hockey is great fun to watch even if your team's not in it. So, if you have a chance to watch some playoff hockey, maybe we might do a stream here and there. Might stream an Avs game or something like that. We'll again, like I said, we'll be streaming the draft lottery and definitely be streaming the draft, which isn't until July 7th, so that's a ways away. But we'll maybe stream a couple of playoff games here, and then I'm gonna try to figure out a more regular streaming schedule for next year. Not quite sure what that's gonna look like just yet, but we'll figure that out once. Probably not until we see what the schedule looks like for next season, which won't happen until August or September. But what happened to the second linesman, or why was there just one? I don't know. They didn't really talk about it on the broadcast. I did kind of notice that it seemed like there was one less guy out there, but yeah, I don't know if you sometimes I take a puck hard to a block a shot or get pinned up against the boards, twisted ankle, who knows. Who knows? I mean, again, it's the last game of the season, so if an offside goes missing here or there, who's gonna care? Yay, we lost. Yeah, it's not fun to watch the Kraken blow a 2-goal lead going into the third and end up losing in regulation, giving up 3 goals in 5 minutes. But at the same time, again, like I said throughout the game, it was a win-win for the Kraken. Either they won the game or they keep that extra 2% chance of getting Shane Wright. So, not the end of the world. Man, this season was a wild ride. Yeah, I think that's about as nicely as you can put it. It was a wild ride. It was fun. I mean, definitely didn't go the way that the season definitely didn't go the way that any of us would have liked it to go for the Kraken. But I'm gonna switch this real quick over to the Mariners on Fubo here. Mariners still up 5-2, by the way, in the 8th. Julio Rodriguez with that 3-run home run to give the Mariners the 5 runs, 3, 4, and 5 in the game. Hold on, I'm just switching it over to Mariners, but we'll still talk hockey. I'm just gonna put the Mariners on the TV in the background here. That's the one we want.
I dream of. If everything I dream of and more, probably.
Oh, I guess.
How do you not love that guy? I love it.
Oh, it's an overtime? Oh, no. That was going to take too long to figure out, so. Oh, well. Yeah, so maybe not the season we hope for, or definitely not the season we hope for. Maybe not even the season that most of us optimistic fans expected from the Kraken. But at the end of the day, end of the year, it was still an NHL season in Seattle, and that's really what this first season, I think, was all about in the end, was just, yeah, it would have been better if they could have made the playoffs in the first season, and I'm sure that would have attracted a little bit more attention locally in media if the Kraken had been good this year. But it was still an NHL season, right? It was still NHL in Seattle for the first time. Next year, yeah, you want to start getting better because it's, the honeymoon period is kind of one season. Maybe you can get it through part of 2, but if things aren't going well halfway through the second season, that's where you start looking at things like coaching changes. If Grubauer is still not doing great halfway through a second season, you start looking at what you can do about changing things up in net. So, oh my goodness, took a while, but we finally got a spammer in here. I had to put the thing in here. Let's see. Remove. I'm gonna report the spam. Thanks. The spam has been reported. Good. GTFO. Jays over Mariners. Boo! We don't like that. I'm assuming you're Canadian. I have Canadian friends that say this. That I have friends up in Victoria and Vancouver, so they all cheer for the Jays too. I get that they're the team in Canada, but I would probably still cheer for the Mariners if I was up there. It's still the closest team to you. I don't know. Like if there was only one NHL team in the US and it was like if the New York Rangers were the only team in the if the New York Rangers were the only NHL team, I would still cheer. I would cheer for the Canucks. Let's be honest. Like I'd probably cheer for it because they're right there, right? So yeah, I mean, I would even if the Rangers were the one that were like spam. Like I mean, Toronto's spam. Like it's not hard to find Toronto games if you're in Canada. It's not hard to find Toronto games if you're in the U.S. even, but especially not in Canada. Regardless if you're in Victoria. Yeah, it's not. I mean, like obviously the Blue Jays are going to be the team that the Canadian media follows. So from that, it's probably easier to follow them, I guess, from that standpoint. But I would still go for the team that was closer, personally. I don't know. I would not tie my allegiance to one team just because they're in my country. But you know what? I don't blame people either for it. I don't personally get it, but I don't blame people for it. Happy to have found the sport and team, though. I'm going to crack open a beer, and I would really like to know... I'd really like to know if you guys are positive about next season as well. Yeah, I think... I mean, look, there's no way it can be worse, right? Like, that being said, when the Kraken drafted second overall in the last draft, I pretty much said there's no way they'd be drafting that high again for a while. And they could very well be drafting that high or not, if not higher. So, been wrong before, but things would have to go like next year would have to be like a Philadelphia or Montreal this year level of just absolutely unpredictable tire fire of things going wrong to be worse than it was this season for the Kraken. So, it can't be much worse. Even if it is worse, it can't be much worse. So it's only up from here. The core is there. They've played better since the trade deadline. They've played better really since the last half of the season. The team got better over the course of the season for the most part as they got used to playing with each other. And then even after the trade deadline and they lost 5 guys, they continued playing well together and finished off the season pretty strong. So... yeah, I think next season coming in with, again, a core that's now played most of a season together, coming into a full season of Matty Beniers, who looks like he makes a huge difference, obviously with 9 points in his first 10 games, as well as a potential top 3 pick that you could also add to that. And then whatever the Kraken do in free agency, again, if they're able to pick up a Gaudreau, a Fiala, a Forsberg, Bergeron I don't think is likely, but Bergeron or... one of those guys, then they're able to pick up a guy like that in free agency to add to it, then I think, again, it'll be a better season next year for sure, at least as far as wins and losses are concerned. Obviously, not having COVID constantly interrupt the flow of getting lines together and practicing and all that kind of stuff, and just from player individual perspectives for the players interrupted their season and flow of how they're going about things. It's good. So next season can't be much worse for the Kraken. On the bright side, or I shouldn't say on the bright side, if everything falls apart, the Kraken end up getting tons and tons of injuries, things just don't go their way for whatever reason next season, and they do end up in a similar, if not worse, spot next season, the bright side to that is that Connor Bedard looks like a full-on franchise-changing player. Again, it's a young player, you never know. Obviously, Alexei Lafreniere is supposed to be another one of these franchise-changing players, and kind of has not had a great start to his career so far. I don't it's still too early to really call him a bust, but he hasn't come in and lit things up like McDavid or Matthews or Crosby did when they came in as the generational talent type of prospect. But Bedard looks like he could be that. Again, we'll see after one more season of him in the WHL whether or not he keeps up his pace there. But He looks like one of those like absolute phenom generational type talents. So really, again, like this year, next year, if things do go terribly, terribly wrong, there's at least a prize at the end of it potentially. So, oh, you live in Toronto? Okay, yeah, fair. If you live in Toronto, then yeah, Jays makes sense. Yeah, I can't blame you for cheering for the Jays if you live in Toronto. That's for sure. I think it'll take 2 seasons, but then we should be. I think it'll take 2 seasons, but I think we should be contenders for a playoff spot. Vegas was a fluke in the expansion draft, and I think they did well. I mean, yeah, obviously Vegas did as good a job as they possibly could have done with their expansion draft situation, and it was a very different situation. Even if the rules around the draft were the same, how other GMs treated the draft, obviously COVID, cap situation, there was a lot was different outside of the rules of the draft. It was about as honestly the situation outside of the rules of themselves of the draft was about as different as it could get between the Golden Knights and the Kraken. Some of it should have been in the Kraken favor a little bit more than it was. Some of it was definitely not. Like the GMs learning from Vegas's draft, that was definitely a thing more so than I thought it would be. COVID had a bigger impact on this first Kraken season than I think many people really expected coming in, but that definitely had a pretty big impact. So yeah, I would expect the Kraken to be playoff contenders. I think again the Pacific isn't going to be strong next year, so I think with a not terribly strong Pacific, stronger probably than this year, but still a pretty mediocre division. The opportunity is there for like if they really get things clicking and get things rolling early that they could challenge for a playoff spot next year. But I think 2-3 years is probably where we're really looking at. That's where they start being kind of a perennial playoff type of team. I've been watching Bedard in Regina. He's definitely McDavid level. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I haven't really watched much Connor Bedard. I just know what I've read about him and from people that do watch him like yourself. So yeah, that's the type of guy that if things go terribly wrong next season, then there's a prize at the end of the tunnel. So, which yeah, I mean Shane Wright isn't that level of player, but Shane Wright's a very very good player as well that could make a big difference to whoever he ends up playing for. So both of these drafts had that feeling to it. And I forget who the second pick is in next year's draft. So if there's people that follow the prospects closely, let me know. I remember hearing there's a guy that's supposed to like be kind of the locked in second behind Bedard next season. That's maybe even better than Shane Wright as well. So you got two, like a top 1-2, kind of like the McEichel draft, McDavid and Eichel, where there's like two franchise changing players at the top of that draft. So it's not even just Bedard or nothing, which means that there could be some teams. Obviously, Arizona will be one of them, but there could be some teams down there at the bottom that are really tanking it out. Arizona is going to be awful next season again. I don't think there's any way around that. But it'll be interesting to see who the other teams that might take a step back will be. Because, obviously you'd want to say teams like Buffalo had a good end of this season, and they look like they could have a core there that could be competitive next year. Ottawa might... See, that's the thing with, Ottawa and New Jersey seem like the next obvious ones to kind of just fall apart or, go tank mode. But both of them are kind of ready to start winning or try to start winning with the cores that they've built from tanking. So I can't really see either one of those teams at least intentionally tanking like Arizona seems like they're doing. Matija Michkov. Mativ. Oh my goodness. I see. I haven't read the name, but won't be playing until 2026. Okay. Well, since you asked me if I'm going for the Rangers in the playoffs, yes, I am. Diehard New York sports fan. Emmy, if it wasn't the Isles or Devils in the playoffs, I would go for either of them. So are you Islanders first or Rangers first? Out of curiosity. See that it's always been it's always been a curiosity is from like you know I was born and raised in the Seattle area, so it's always been pretty obvious you cheer for the local team. Um, Pretty easy to pick your local team, but I've always kind of had that curiosity for like like if I had grown up in like an LA, a New York, or a Chicago where you have multiple teams in sports, which teams I would cheer for. So I've always been kind of curious how like especially New York and LA fans choose their teams, and if you're like locked into that team or if you kind of cheer for the two teams since they're usually split. I mean, I guess it's not the case with the Rangers and Islanders. They're in the same division, but like the Jets and Giants are in different conferences, so it's not too hard to cheer for both of them. And Yankees and Mets are in different. Although I get the feeling that with Yankees and Mets, those two fan bases tend to. I mean, the Yankees don't really care, but like I get the feeling that most Mets fans hate the Yankees as much as anyone. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I respect all three teams the same. All right, fair enough. I think if it was me in like that type of situation, like if I was living in New York, I would probably have my favorite team from each of the leagues, but then I would still cheer for the other teams that are local. Other than well, I mean, if I grew up in New York, it would probably be hard not to cheer for the Yankees. But I just hate the Yankees so much I can't imagine a version of myself cheering for them. So, um, it would be difficult with the Rangers and Islanders being in the same division because I know there's a rivalry there, and if you're like passionately a fan of one of the teams, it can make it hard to be a fan of the other one. So it'd probably depend on if you lived on the island or in the like in the island or on the mainland. If you're on the island, I think the Islanders are the easy pick. If you're on the mainland, then maybe you're a Devils fan or yeah, maybe New York, maybe the Rangers. I do like the Rangers being original six team. Like that would definitely add to it. So, also to add to that comment, not a big baseball fan, but as a New York sports fan, the Mets and Yankees have the best records in the MLB. That's true. Yeah, Mets is a bit of a surprise. Yankees not terribly surprised. It's the Yankees. They spend as much money as anybody else, other than sometimes the Dodgers. So like. It's baseball, and the Yankees can spend with the top teams in the league, so they're always going to be competitive. Jays. Jays fan getting in there against the Yankees. Yeah. That's something that me and any Jays fan can always agree on. Screw the Yankees. I kind of like the Mets. The Mets are kind of like the Mariners East. So I have a soft spot for the Mets because they're yeah, the Mets and Mariners fans I think kind of relate to each other a fair amount. And obviously those two teams have made some trades that are either beloved or loathed by the other fan base depending on the trade. We got about 10 more minutes here. We'll stick around for about 10 more minutes. Again, Kraken, as far as the game we were watching here, the Kraken ended up falling 4-3 to the Jets after having a 3-1 lead going into the third. For the Kraken, they fall to 27, 49, and 6 on the season. Jets improving to 39, 27, and 11, or 20, 39, 32, and 11 on the season. Both teams missed the playoffs. Kraken, with the loss, secure the third best spot in the draft lottery. So an 11.5% chance for them of getting the first overall pick. Which Philly fans, again, we've got a couple in here. Philly fans that were not happy because Philly was the one that stood to gain from a Kraken win or overtime loss. Philly still a 9.5% chance in that fourth spot at the first overall pick for Philly fans. Looking for some bit of brightness in a otherwise abysmal season for Philly fans. And Kraken fans as well. And honestly, Habs fans who get Habs. I don't know if we have any Habs fans in here, but Habs the first ever team in NHL history to finish 32nd. So there you go. Absaholic. I think geography oftentimes still plays a factor. Like in hockey, the Rangers play in Manhattan while the Islanders play in the burbs on the island. Yeah, so like, yeah, if you're on the island, I think you cheer for the Islanders. If you're not on the island, you're probably cheering for the Rangers. But and obviously, like New York's big enough that there's, can be huge fan bases for both of those teams, even though they're geographically close to each other. Same with the Devils. Like there's 3 teams there geographically really close together, but there's enough people in that area that it can massively support all 3 of those teams. Even with one of them being an original 6 team too, and having like all that crazy history. Which, I mean, both the Islanders and Devils have good history as well, but not like an original 6 team. Even though the Islanders have more cups. So, don't want to short the Islanders fans. I agree with you that geography makes a difference, like you said, about Rangers and Islanders play, but you kind of forgot about the Devils, though. Yeah, I mean, the Devils are, they're right there. The Devils are actually, I think, maybe not by driving just because Manhattan, but I think by distance, by the crow flying, I think the Devils are actually closer to the Rangers than the Islanders are. But, yeah, I mean, it's, even though they're right there, it is across the state boundary, which is what tends to like throw people off a little bit. Yeah, there's 3 New York teams, but those 3 New York teams are the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Buffalo Sabres up in upstate New York. But the Devils are the other one that's right there in that same area. I would assume Devils fans are mostly in Jersey, even though they're right there. But I doubt New Yorkers are cheering for a team from New Jersey. Yeah, that's kind of like, again, I never lived in New York. I've never really visited there, but that's kind of the vibe I get about New York and Jersey, is that there's kind of like that sibling rivalry between New York and Jersey. And if you're on one side or the other, then you're kind of, I wouldn't say against the other side, but it's always kind of like they're the sibling rivalry type of thing. But it makes sense that if they're all close enough that you can easily like take a bus or a train or a subway or something to any one of the games. So, I mean, yeah, if you got 3 teams right there that you can all cheer for, then why not, Again, them all being in the same division definitely would make that interesting, but Rangers also have 4 cups, yeah, so it's Islanders have 4 cups all at once for the Islanders. Rangers have a decent shot at the cup this year, I think. I will say, not to piss you off, Donnell. I did nothing against you. I think I'm hoping I'm wrong, but I did pick the Penguins to beat the Rangers in the first round. I don't know why. I just have this feeling that this is like one of those weird years where Crosby will just like drag the Penguins along. I mean, not just Crosby, obviously, like the team's good. I picked the Penguins in the first round, but I think if the Rangers can get past the Penguins, I think they've got a good shot at least making it to the final. I think this is a good shot the Rangers have here, especially if Shesterkin can get back to... He had a bit of a... I don't want to say a tough end of the season because he was still good, but he came back to more human levels of goaltending at the end of the season. But if he can get back to how he played, especially through the middle of the season in the playoffs here, then the Rangers are going to be hard to beat. Hey, just wanted to stop by and tell you thank you for all the awesome content this season. Absolutely. Glad you're enjoying it. We'll have one more R&R that I'll get recorded here in a bit and try to have out tonight, I think is the plan. Trying to have that one out sometime tonight. I don't know exactly when it will happen, but I'll have an R&R out tonight, and then off-season starts tomorrow, and we'll start getting some videos about looking back. We'll get one looking back on this season. Maybe a quick one, kind of doing a redraft. We'll probably do a redraft of the expansion draft at some point. Just like a hindsight redraft, right? Like, we'll probably do that. And then we'll do one looking forward to next year and what to look for in this off season and what's ahead of the Kraken in the next couple of months here. And then I got a set of 32 videos coming out, or a set of 32 videos that I've been writing and planning all season long. So I'll let you guess what that might be. But we got a lot planned for the off season. Again, reminder for anybody that may have joined here late, We will be streaming during the draft lottery on the 10th, seeing if the Kraken can maybe get that first overall pick, but where the Kraken will fall in the draft with the third best odds at that first overall pick. So we'll be streaming for that lottery, hoping for the best for the Kraken. Obviously, with two teams getting lottoed, it's the same as last year for the Kraken with those third odds. They can pick anywhere from first to fifth in the draft. They could jump to first, jump to second, stay at third, or fall to fourth or fifth. So it's kind of where we're at with the draft lottery. But at least, but the last, excuse me. But the last teams to win the cup in the area were the Devils in 2003, Rangers in 2004, and Islanders in 83. Yeah, the Islanders doing the four in a row and then nothing before or since. Although those four came pretty early on for the Islanders. And then the Devils had that run there with Brodeur and some not that fun hockey to watch, much like people criticize the Islanders of being recently. Not quite to the same degree as those Devils, but... And then the Rangers in 94. Canucks fans know that one all too well. Who would you like the Kraken to get in the draft? We talked about this a bit earlier on, but for those who are joining late, so obviously if the Kraken draft first, I think Shane Wright is an absolute perfect fit for the Kraken. All around talented player, again, very good two-way, much like Beniers. So I think it's an easy pick for Shane Wright, perfect fit for the Kraken. If their first pick, they'll take Shane Wright. If their second pick, and this is the guy that looks like he's probably pretty much a unanimous second pick if he doesn't go first, which again, Shane Wright probably first, likely second pick regardless of who's picking, and I would think the Kraken would fall in with this, would be Logan Cooley. Only knock against Cooley is his size, which is kind of the same knock. There's a little bit of like evasive... talking about earlier, little evasiveness and kind of that juking puck handling type of thing that Savoy isn't as elite at this point. But if the Kraken end up picking third in that spot, I would like to see them take Savoy. I think the top two picks are probably going to be Wright and Cooley. So if the Kraken are picking anywhere below the top two, then they probably don't get either one of those. Savoy could go anywhere in that top five. Or I should say Savoy could probably go anywhere from third to fifth. So I could see the Kraken getting him in any one of those spots. If the Kraken drop to fifth and Savoy's gone, there's a couple defensemen that maybe they take. A guy that will definitely be one that Kraken fans specifically would be watching is Connor Geekie, Morgan's younger brother, who had a fantastic season as working his way up draft boards. Some draft boards still have him down around 10th or in the low teens. But there's some draft boards that have Connor Geekie as high as third. So it's a name to watch for sure. Especially if the Kraken fall to fifth in the draft, he's a name to watch. I don't think, if the Kraken are picking third, I think there's more talented players than Connor to take, even though it would be fun to watch Connor and Morgan play together. Much like we got to see the two Fleury brothers play together, but this time on the forward end. And with both Connor and both Connor and Morgan being young players with scoring potential, Morgan just kind of getting robbed quite a bit this season. But that's kind of there. I've read through some other ones. I've glanced at a bunch of different draft rankings and stuff like that, enough to basically pick out those three that I think are kind of the best looks for the Kraken. Ultimately for Seattle, if it's not Shane Wright, having a guy like Cooley or Savoy, even if they're not bigger players and may not add a ton of physical aspect to their game, and even if they are their talents mostly on the forward end, both look like pretty decent defensive players as well. So it's not like they're just forwards only, not just offensive only type of forwards. But you're looking for, at this point, the Kraken needs scorers, and that's what both Cooley and Savoy have been in their junior careers. So that's why I'm picking those guys over like a defenseman or something like that. So one of those guys I think would be what I'd like to see. On another note, does someone here think that the Leafs will finally get past the first round? I picked the Lightning to get. I picked the Lightning to beat the Leafs in 7 on my bracket. I guess I could pull up my bracket here, see what you guys think. Well, it's on another tab. Hold on one second. We are at 2:00, so we'll probably close this out here in just a little bit. But I'll see what you guys think of my bracket here, since we're talking about it. All right, so here's the bracket. Oop, wrong one. Sorry. Here's the bracket. So I got the Avs beating Nashville with Saros out. I don't think that that's a bold pick at all. Avs beating Nashville. I gave Nashville 1 win. They're a good enough defensive team that they can probably squeak out 1 win from Colorado. I got Minnesota beating St. Louis in 6. I think that, like, as long as they get goaltending from Fleury and Talbot, I think Minnesota's a good enough team that they'll at least get to the second round. Unfortunately, they'll have to face the Avs in the second round, which that'll be an interesting series. But Calgary, I think, handles Dallas in 5. And then, I mean, how can you not cheer for the Battle of Alberta? Gotta cheer for that Battle of Alberta there in the first round. So, and I think Edmonton will beat LA. Smith has had a good end of the season, so that's the big question mark, obviously, as always with the Oilers, is goaltending, as well as defense, but I just don't know if the Kings really have enough to, as long as Smith is good for the Oilers, I don't know if the Kings really have enough to overcome it. Then Avs beating the Wild. I'm an Avs fan, so that's kind of help. I will say the Wild are my third favorite team, which is, I know, a little bit weird since they're pretty big divisional rivals. But whichever team between the Avs and Wild win that second round, I'm cheering for the rest of the way. Avs first, but Avs I'll have making past the second round finally. Calgary wins, then I think the Avs make it to the Cup. I think Calgary, I don't know. I just don't trust Calgary with a deep run. The only reason I have them going deep into the conference finals is just because of that road of LA and Edmonton. But Florida makes it 1 round in where they lose to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay beating Toronto in 7. Look, like, I think this is the best Toronto team this may be the best ever Toronto team. Like, this is the best Leafs team I think that's ever been put on the ice. But I don't know. Oop, that's the wrong one again. Let's transition back. Choop, back to me. Hello. Yeah, so I got, again, I will say there's a little bias in there because I am an Avs fan second. So I got my fingers crossed in that second round. I won't lie, assuming the Avs do make it past the first round, which I think that's the biggest lock of the entire thing. And that's nothing against the Predators. It's really just, I think that one's locked in, Avs in the second round, just because Saros is out in the first. If Saros was in net, that would be a much more interesting series. I still think the Avs would win it, but it would be more interesting. But past the Avs getting past the second round, once they get into the second round, I'm not going to lie, I'll be pretty nervous. Especially if it isn't against Minnesota. Because, like, if Minnesota beats the Avs, because I like Minnesota as well, I wouldn't have a hard time just hopping on the Minnesota bandwagon. But, yeah, if the Wild lose to the Blues, I don't dislike the Blues either, but if the Wild lose to the Blues, it would hurt more to see the Avs lose to the Blues, so. I will say, the Blues, I do have a little bit of a soft spot for the Blues as well, just because they beat the Bruins in that final. Sorry, I got a hair on my tongue. It's really annoying. Yeah, I mean, there's actually a number of teams in the Central Division, the same division as the Avs, that I actually like. So, I mean, like, I'm definitely an Avs fan. I would say I'm kind of a casual Avs fan, where I'm definitely a diehard Kraken fan. Unfortunately, it's been, until the Kraken showed up, it's just been really hard to consistently follow one NHL team in Seattle. So while I've been an Avs fan since 2013, it's not diehard enough to where I really have that animosity towards any of their division rivals. So that's why that's there. I do think the Leafs get by Tampa, though. I think the Leafs have a good chance of getting past Tampa. Like, it's going to be a good series, and I definitely will not be at all. I'd be kind of surprised if it doesn't get to at least 6 games, and I would be not at all surprised to see it go to 7. But I don't know. Like, I kind of hope the Leafs make it past the first round, just because, like, it's funny watching them not make it past the first round, but at some point, like, you can only tell a joke so many times before it gets old, and it's kind of there with the Leafs. Like, I don't want to see the Leafs win the cup, but I wouldn't mind seeing them make it past the first round and at least get that, like, that little bit of, like, a sigh of relief, even though, like, it is kind of funny that they're in this place, like, Leaf fans are in this place where, and I'm speaking for them as not being a Leaf fan, but it seems like Leaf fans are kind of in this place where they've got maybe the best ever Toronto Leaf team in front of them, a team that absolutely should have, like, Stanley Cup winning expectations, but they're kind of in a spot with how things have gone since 2004, where they're, like, they would just be happy with one of the best teams in the league making it past the first round. Like, I wouldn't say that they'd be happy watching their team lose in the second round, but it wouldn't feel disappointing to see them lose in the second round just because they'd actually won a round. So, I don't know. It's funny either way. I can get behind Shane Wright. Yeah, I can definitely get behind Shane Wright to the Kraken. Avaholic loving the bracket. Absolutely. Thought you might. I like the look of it as well. The only thing I'm not sure about is the Canes in the final. The Canes' goaltending issues right now, I did not feel confident putting them all the way through. Honestly, I kind of feel like I might go back and switch the Penguins into the final. Like I said, I have this feeling about the Penguins this year. That being said, you know, can Tristan Jarry make a glove save in the playoffs this season? That's the question. If the Rangers make it past, I think the Rangers can definitely make the finals if they make it past the Pens. I just, for whatever reason, I have this weird feeling about the Penguins this year. I did not, by the way, I didn't have the Penguins in the playoffs. I'm coming around. That's another video I'll be doing here in a little bit, is going over my preseason picks and where I had the standings going. We'll do some accountability to my picks of the start of the season. We'll do that video. We'll try and keep it short, not go into it too much. I'm not good at keeping videos short, but I'm going to try and get some shorter videos out there rather than these, like, 20-minute R&Rs that I've been doing even after losses. So we're still learning how to do shorter videos, but Matthews is now the third player ever to win back-to-back scoring titles. Yeah, I mean, Matthews is as a goal scorer, ridiculously good. He's, I think, on about the same pace that Ovechkin was goal scoring at this point in his career. So, you know, obviously that's a lot of career that Matthews would have to go without really being injured all that much. So, you know, to say that Matthews could challenge Ovechkin for goals in whatever that would be, like 15 years, is probably asking a lot, but it's possible. I mean, it's not out of the question at the rate Matthews is going right now. Longevity clearly being the biggest. Longevity as well as the consistent goal scoring are both impressive from what Ovi's done, but longevity is almost the most impressive thing. All right, well, I think we'll start to wrap it up here. So we'll do a last call on any questions or any comments people want to give one last minute here for a last call, and we'll call it here. Again, we'll be back for the stream of said it a few times here, but we'll be back streaming on the 10th for that draft lotto, and hoping the Kraken win. Colorado? Question mark? Well, I would not pick that one. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I mean, I think Avs fans everywhere, even if the Avs might be the best team in the NHL, or certainly one of the 2 best teams, there is that underlying uncertainty about the second round for sure. So it's not a confident Avs picking it. They're a team that's good enough that they should win it, they're a team that's good enough that they should have a good chance at winning it and be one of the favorites. And because they're my favorite team in the playoffs, I might as well pick them since they should be good enough to do it. Matthews currently has a higher goals per game than Ovechkin. Yeah, he does. It's just, yeah. So goals per game pace, he's higher than Ovechkin. It's the number of games that have happened. Obviously, Ovechkin was hurt by missing the entire lockout season, and then the second lockout a little bit later that wasn't the full season. But Matthews is also, I guess Ovechkin's also missed these COVID years, games in these COVID years. So, but there could also be a lockout coming here in a couple of seasons that Ovechkin might be retired for. So, we'll see. It's not just the player's health that has to maintain consistent. It's like the league not getting in their own way, and apparently pandemics not showing up as well. I have Calgary versus Tampa in the final. Yeah, I just don't trust Calgary. I don't know why. Like, they're a good enough team that I think, like, especially defensively and in goal, they're a good enough team that they could make a deep run. I just don't know why. I don't know why I don't trust them. Maybe it's because they're a Canadian team, and Canadians teams just don't seem to have it. But it'll happen eventually. So maybe it's this year, and maybe it's the Flames. I will say, from a story perspective, a Flames Leafs Cup would be pretty interesting. The Flames playing in the Stanley Cup final against their longtime captain in Mark Giordano. Yeah, that would be an interesting story from a story perspective. If a Canadian team is going to win the Cup, having the Leafs versus the Flames in the final would be a pretty interesting story. Defense of the Leafs is lacking, though. Yeah, defense on the Leafs is definitely an issue, even with the addition of Gio. The Jets should obviously be in the playoffs this year. It's unfortunate that they got injuries at key times and underachieved. Yeah, the Jets are definitely the team that I feel like most well, I shouldn't say that. There are definitely teams that underachieved more. But as far as teams that I thought were almost certainly going to be in the playoffs, other than the Islanders, who, yeah, the Islanders are probably the most underachieving, but the Jets are right there with them, I think, as far as teams that are in the playoffs. Obviously, nobody expected the Habs to be as bad as they are, but I don't think a lot of people had the Habs in the playoffs anyway. So yeah, not a great... Obviously, the Jets did struggle with injuries, and the Islanders definitely have the, I think, pretty good excuse of spending the first 20 or whatever it was, like, first month on the road, which is a tough way to start your season. All right. Get rid of that last crappy spam comment. Yeah. Tough season for the Jets as well. Tough season for both of the teams playing in this game today, but it's over now and look to next season, and I think both teams are looking for a better season next year. So anyway, with that, I think we'll close things out. So again, thank you all very much for joining for this one. Feel free to hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be doing another stream again on the 10th for the draft lottery. You might stream a couple playoff games. So if there's a playoff game you'd like to see streamed, probably won't happen in the first round, but maybe second, third, or certainly probably a finals game we can do one of these streams for. So if there's some games you'd like to see streamed, leave those in the comments of this video or the R&R afterwards. We'll do that. And yeah, we'll be doing a stream for the draft as well. And yeah. Anyway, it's been fun. Thanks for joining for the season. Kraken final game of the Kraken's inaugural season coming to an end. So not the season we hoped for or expected from the Kraken, but it was still an NHL season in Seattle. So a good season regardless of the win-loss record. Anyway, again, thank you all very much, and see you next time. Peace.